gotta get up. I need you to get up. Get up.
Suicide doors are looking gorgeous, though.
take you back. Spitting facts, you gotta live with that. Who got it? Who want it? No problem. We mob it. Who got it? Who want it? No problem. We mob it. In the belly of the beast, there were days where I barely had sleep, but I had to work more than competition. I can't live like the opposition, living everything I dreamed of, doing everything you think of. The way I work, I'm on the brink of doing everything you dreamed of. Only aim for perfection, ain't no half stepping. I'm about to take you back, spitting facts, you gotta live with that. Who got it? Who want it? No problem, we mob it. In the city, plenty havoc causing. Do or die, it's either all or nothing. Best believe I'm leaving out with something. Anytime I got the crowd jumping, throwing reds, you know they fist pumping. I'm the king of dysfunction. What would you do if you had my life? Work like me, had them stripes. Would you go hard just to have that ice? Lot of dudes still trying to Failure happens to us all, but it's how champions evolve. The only thing that matters from a loss is if you get back up when you fall. You gotta get up. Failure happens to us all, but this is how champions evolve. The only thing that matters from a loss is when you get back up when you fall. You better get up. You gotta get up. You gotta get up. I need you to get up. Get up. You witnessing a champ in the making, fueled by your passion for greatness. Yeah, but adversity and bad situations meet us in the middle of the paths that we taking. But it's what you do after that makes men. Will you quit or will you stand up and face it? Tell me, do you have what it takes to swing back when this life asks for the fade? Can you tell me you'll adapt to the change when the punch lands and it puts you flat on your face? After you wake, will you stand up and say, get mad, hit back, lit match to the flames? Failure happens to us all, but it's how champions evolve. The only thing that matters from a loss is if you get back up when you fall. You gotta get up. Failure happens to us all, but this is how champions evolve. The only thing that matters from a loss is when you get back up when you fall. You better get up. You gotta get up. You gotta get up. I need you to get up. Get up.
Icy boy with diamonds on my frozen
I got a lot on the line. Bitch with a different approach. Only spend time in the flow.
هذا الليل لم يكن في مكان مناسب. سكتون يا سكتون يا سكتون يا سكتون.
Welcome back, everyone, here to the second week of the PUBG Mobile Pro League Arabia 2022 full season. My name is Highland Wolf, and we are joined back to what will be the league stage, and all of our 20 teams back at it once more for vying to get that second Super Weekend action. But if you at home want, as always, to join in onto the fun, you can let us know using those socials on the hashtag PMPL Arabia. Let us know through YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, all of these socials below. And what teams are you going for? What teams do you think have what it takes to get into that top spot, get back into our second Super Weekend? I'm not just myself, though, today. I'm going to be joined once again by the lovely Imperium. Imperium, what a Super Weekend we had. Are we ready for more action today?
We are indeed. New week, new opportunities, new chances, and we will be, of course, looking at the 4 teams that didn't make it into the first Super Weekend and see how much they've learned coming into League Week 2. We'll get through, obviously, the bones of it throughout the pre-show and, of course, throughout the games today. But indeed, I'm very, very excited on what's coming up.
It's not just ourselves, so on the desk, we are joined by, of course, the beautiful Monster Energy, our official energy drinks partner here for the tournament PMPL Arabia Imperium. We also got to talk not just Monster, though. We just have to talk about these teams because all 20 of them going to be back here once more.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, a new chance for the teams that didn't make it into put a much bigger dent on not only the rest of the teams, but of course the leaderboard coming into Super Weekend number 2. The tough task is the fact that we have Sanhok as well as Erangel for this week, so the unpredictability of that map is certainly going to play into the mix. However, if you can lock it under your belt in some way, shape, or form, the majority elements, we could see some big surprises at the end of the second day tomorrow. So, yeah, bring it on, Highland.
A lot changes, but format stays the same. And as we take a look at that format, Imperium, we do have to talk about that weekdays. It's 20 teams in those 5 groups, of course, if you are just joining us for the first time. And they're all going to play 4 matches a day in their own groups. So one group sits out for every match of these 2 next days. They, for the Super Weekends, will qualify the top 16 teams who get to the 16 highest points. And from there, the Super Weekends Imperium is about accumulating those points.
Exactly. So for this week, indeed, the points are reset. The points secured from previous weekend will carry over to next weekend. And you're wondering, well, what's the calendar, right, Highland? How do I check out what days these games are on? It's right up on your screens this week. It is the same as last week, right? Today, tomorrow, and then we get into the Super Weekend Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, of course. So that third week in July, there is not going to be that off day for these teams. So they're going to have to compete from the play of week 3 into the Super Weekend 3 straight away before we will then take a quick break before joining back to our 16 finalists later in that July spot down below. Imperium, that third week will change a lot, but so will this week. We talked about it already. Those Sanhok matches definitely change a lot.
Yeah, and the teams that didn't make it into the first Super Weekend, yes, it is certainly going to be challenging for them because they haven't actually experienced Sanhok in any way, shape, or form in the lobby. However, you could arguably say the same for the teams that played the first Super Weekend. And again, that's just going to throw up a lot of predictability. What isn't unpredictable is the prize pool. That's straight as a die, $150,000 in total on the line, spread out over multiple sections. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of moolah up for grabs, Island.
I mean, how many dice could you effectively buy with $150,000? That's a lot of dice that you could be able to buy. I mean, roll a chance for these points. These teams, they've got to get those points on board. I know I hate with the dad jokes. It's okay. Imperium. I'm here for you. It's the winner chicken dinners are going to be there later this week, but the league stage, all these teams going to earn $2,500 so far. And then, as we said, those finals later in July are their own separate prize pool where the winner goes home with $10,000 and that crown of the PMPL Arabia champion. But it's not just the prize money that these teams are after. It's about those secure spots back into what we assume here, Imperium, will be future competitions.
Definitely. Look, Highland Wolf, that dice question, it wasn't really a question. I've taken it seriously. So if you, let's say the average price of a pair of dice is, let's say, €4, okay, and your team wins,
okay,
let's say 8,000. So you take 8,000 and you divide it by 4.
Mm-hmm.
You can get yourself 2,000 pairs of dice. There you go.
That's
so
a lot of
that
dice.
Answers your question.
That's a lot of games. There's a lot of board games we can play with 2,000 dice, Imperium. I mean, you can make moves from one board to the next, but each team's going to have to make moves back through our league stage, as we said. And joining us back are going to be 4 more teams, Imperium, who didn't really have an opportunity to play, as you say, in that Super Weekend.
Oh, less didn't have an opportunity, and more of it just didn't make it in, right? And that's the way the cookie crumbles. But again, new week, new opportunities, and Team Falcons, Cur 12, SKYROCKET, Esports, and VISTA Gaming, they're gonna have a lot of work ahead. They've luckily been able to hopefully not only use this Super Weekend that's happened to check out the VODs, check out the games, and to kind of maybe understand more what teams did better, what teams have changed up as well between league stage and Super Weekend, and of course within their own way have done the relevant level of training, the relevant level of preparation, so they come into this week a lot stronger. And I think it is certainly important that those 4 teams that are playing in this first day of League Week 2, that they do get off to a pretty strong start, right? That they do show the rest of the teams in the lobby that they're going to go out swinging. They're going to go, they're not going to go out without a fight per se. And again, just to continue to build on their own confidence.
And of course, that mark that these teams have to, in the Super Weekends, reach now sets about at 70 points. Imperium, the only one bringing up that rear in that 16th position for the qualification. We said there are still 4 more teams that need to get in here. The importance of getting in there, as you say, though, really is so dire in this second week. Because if these teams don't get in to that second week of play, they're left with only 1 week's chance to get further in. Now, if we multiply that 70 points, that's talking about not only getting 140 points to match 16th place, that's also getting even more points to match the teams that would be competing again in that third week.
Exactly. It happened last season in the spring split with Triple Esports. We all know it by now. We've talked about it again with the amount of PMPLs that are being played throughout all of the regions. In my memory, it's only happened on 2 occasions. In the last split for PMPL Arabia, and then last year in PMPL South Asia. Outside of that, you are looking at 2 Super Weekends minimum to book your spot into the finals. And even then, there's no guarantee, right? There's absolutely no guarantee. Falcons are a team that we expect so much better from.
Yeah.
I know that you've been harshly critical on them. Yeah. I do understand that when it really matters, such as the finals and the NBA finals, Falcons do and can perform. Yeah. We've seen it in the spring split. I would argue that this League Week 2 is a time where they need to perform, where they should be treating it as if it's a finals, right?
Oh, yeah.
They have to.
Yeah. If they don't, Falcons alongside VISTA, alongside SKYROCKET, alongside also Cur 12, they all are going to be in so much trouble and effectively are going to be building the nails to their coffin if they don't make it into the second Super Weekend. So these next 2 days, they're the most important 2 days that they've got for possibly until the finals, realistically, to get in onto that finals themselves. But not only, I think, then, there has been some upsets when it comes to the overall leaderboard. And I think that teams like also R8, like NIGMA, also again need to get back. These other favorites didn't perform as highly as we maybe expected them to.
Oh man, yeah, they certainly they pulled out a couple of surprises. Unfortunately, that kind of is in a bad way in their own right. It allowed other teams to step up to the plate in a massively positive way. We don't have the overall standings from the first Super Weekend to show you, but to give you a bit of a prime example, GEEKAY Esports finished the weekend #1 on that first place spot with 158 points, and over 15 days that put them on an average of 10.53 points per game. An average of over 10 points per game is more than solid enough, and it was followed quite quickly by the likes of Twisted Minds, who hit over that 10-point average as well. So a number of teams are kind of stepping up to the plate when the likes of R8 and NIGMA, two teams that we expected, haven't, and that's okay, right? Because again, the region is strong. It doesn't revolve around those two teams. We want so many teams to have their shining light, to have their shining moment, to kind of show us, show them, show the region, show the world what they're able to do. Oh, by the grace of the PUBG Mobile gods, we are able to show you the overall standings.
And
wonderful, and you can see it on your screens.
And I think I was going to highlight there the other team that we can see on our screen, the 4K, stepping up, I think, majorly. Yes, they kind of fell off a bit towards the end of that first Super Weekend, but that first day, they played out of their minds, Imperium.
They did. That day one for 4K was absolutely incredible. They got themselves 77 points over 5 games, and one of those games was a 0-pointer. So arguably you could say it was kind of 77 over 4 games. Yeah, they could have scored points in that 5th game. Still an incredible average. It fell down though when in day 2 they only got themselves 21 points, and in day 3 they only got themselves 33. They're in a very healthy spot from a points accumulation, but from an adaptability standpoint, they haven't really adapted, and it's not like I expected the same points accumulation in day 2, day 3, but to drop from 77 to 21, that's like more than 50% less points in one day. And even in day 3, they didn't even hit the 50% points mark at day 1. That is quite poor for 4K, and it does leave me a little bit worried, because again, in week 1, they scraped through into the 16th Super Weekend #1.
Yeah, 16th position they got, but I think they did improve overall. I'm hoping we see that 4K that we saw on the first day, where they can be really great, but we also have seen throughout the tournament so far, 4K back to those mistakes that we looking towards that spring split as well, but they were making those mistakes. They weren't making those Super Weekends, so a lot of stake for them. I think also OOREDOO, Major Pride, two of those teams who are also stepping up. But as we look towards that next page and the second half of those results, that's where we were talking about those powerhouse teams that aren't making the mark.
Still 100 points for NIGMA. It's okay. It's above that 6 point per game that is somewhat a cutoff with 2 Super Weekends under your belt as a team. So in that regard, we can't really hold that against them. It's only 6.67, but it is still above the cutoff point. Where it starts to get a little bit scarier is for R8 and below, right? 6.07, 6.07, 6, and 5.87 per game, and the only one Esports. They had a great end to the Super Weekend with that chicken dinner in the final game, but let's be honest and fair about it. They struggled up until that point, and they're going to have to come into week 2 off the back of other teams wanting to step up, really clawing and fighting their way in.
I think also YALLA were one of those teams that you talked about a lot, I think, Imperium, who were also kind of flip-flop. They didn't really have, I think, the consistency that we were looking for. But I think also when you look towards some of the other teams down on the bottom of that leaderboard, the only one, too, who coming out of that last game in the Super Weekend, Imperium, getting that chicken dinner, did so much, I think, for their standings.
It will help their confidence, not so much the standings realistically. Every point counts. So from a technical standpoint, but in the grand scheme of things, to me, it's more about their confidence and what it's going to do to their confidence in League Week 2 in today's set of games, where they're going to be able to take something like any number of games from the first 2 days and compare it to the game they won and go, okay, well, what did we do right and what did they do wrong? And then they're going to be able to hopefully been able to train up on those things and go from there.
Look, as we take a look at our schedule before we hit into that first game, Imperium, it is going to be, I think, the ye old of Erangel. We're going to have their Sanhok, of course, in between in that second and fourth game, as well as Erangel. There we go. The schedule is on our screens as well. That third and fifth game as well. So the Erangel sandwich looking a little bit less spicy with Miramar, but the vegetarians in this looking pretty good when it comes to that salad, that little extra bit of oomph for the flavor that Sanhok provides.
Dude, I've never associated salad with flavor overall, to be honest.
Look, you can add different things to salads. I mean, I'm rooting. I'm on the salad train.
Adding things to salad, right? That's like taking Sanhok and sprinkling Miramar on top of it, right? That doesn't make it salad. We could do that.
Like, we could make a new map Imperium. We could just put them together. Like, we could throw in a bit of Erangel in the mix, like, as well on the sides.
I would argue that's what Livik is like, right? Because you have snow, you have desert, like...
See, they're on the same page. That's what I'm saying. Like, they've already done it, but, I mean, we could do it again. Like, we can make our own, like, caster map. Special edition.
I honestly, that actually really wouldn't be a bad idea from a technical standpoint to get input of casters and what a map should be like. But either way, yeah, Sanhok, again, I mentioned it already, it's going to throw a level of unpredictability into the mix. Each team will have the same amount of games to at least learn, adapt. It's going to be tougher because they're going to be within different groups across those games. All they need to do is worry about their own performance when it comes to that map. However, for this one, it's going to be starting with good old Erangel.
Erangel, we're back into the norm before the storm. That's going to be Sanhok later, but I think they kind playing path here for all of these teams. It's going to be going down from the south, back up towards that north of Severny itself. I'm not really too concerned about the drop locations for these teams. I think there has been a couple of changes overall for the tournament that we do have to note, in that I think being some teams dropping between Novo, between Milta, also the changes I think we've seen from RTG as well, who used to kind of drop around that hospital side, but also drop very far towards Stalber, and those choices are all there as well.
I'm really curious about what Vista Gaming are going to do, because in League Week 1 it felt like they were one of the teams that really didn't have a hard spot to call their own, or anywhere to really kind of say, hey, this is our drop spot. We saw them go near Pachinki a couple of times, rotate even through Pachinki, so I hope that Vista Gaming into this League Week 2 have a really good spot that they are going to call their own in these games, and they can do something from there. The playing path, not too bad, a tiny bit to the west, but you really can't argue with how it's going from south to north. And phase 1 with it popping up, it's arguably heavily weighed towards west, a little bit more towards that central area under control, so you could have many locations into the mix when it comes to the phase 3, phase 4 shifts.
Yeah, nothing too different though from what we've seen so far in the tournament. A similar zone to what we saw actually in the Super Weekend Imperium. So these teams should be fairly familiar, at least a majority of them coming in. Of course, that changes for Kurd and for SKYROCKET, who are joining us back in, didn't obviously compete in that Super Weekend. So a lot of pressure on them to perform here on this first game.
Of course, as we talked about in terms of the format, you have 4 groups out of 5 competing. In this game 1, it is Group A that is, Group E that's out of the mix. My apologies. That is Team Falcons, the only one, Vista Gaming, and YALLA Esports. Fun little fact, actually, out of the teams that didn't qualify for Super Weekend number 1, it was 2 teams from Group A and 2 teams from Group E. So just something to kind of think about coming into this League Week 3. If it's going to be a continued trend between those 2 groups, we'll have to wait and see. But for the time being, it's no Vista Gaming, no Team Falcons, 2 teams that didn't make it in. So they're going to have to wait a little bit longer to make their mark in this League Week 2.
I mean, also when you were looking towards those changes, actually, very close call for 90th minute. We just saw, of course, teams changing their drop spots as we questioned. And now, actually, 90th, that solo player that they had before has to now delay themselves. They have to maybe swim over, maybe catch a boat that the rest of those teammates will meet up with and try to regroup their members. But they're going to be down a member. That's going to slow them down a lot. The other fortunate thing for them, though, is that you have actually one of their players, YALLA, already inside Quarry. They're already trying to look inside of the zone as well. So I like an adaptation that they were bringing.
Definitely 90th minute. One of solid teams have shown improvement, but also being quite stable in a lot of ways. And they don't really have far to go to get into a strong part of this phase number 1. They can certainly take advantage as well of that more western side of the circle and the western side of the map as a whole, because even though it was quite a centralized playing path, we do have less teams naturally that go over to the west hand side of the map in terms of looting spots. More of the east is generally clustered between FAR, Milta Power, Lipovka, and that kind of prison shelter split. And of course you have Yasnaya occupied by RTG in this game 1, so hopefully 90th minute can take advantage of it, move a little bit earlier and play from there, similar with POWR Esports as well, I suppose, Highland.
Yeah, I think POWR as well. One of those teams who tend to actually focus around more that GEEKAY side and do actually almost focus on Everest a little bit. You can see them split, but they do tend to do this on matches and zones like this where they have the ability to be able to do it early on. I think they're going to have to be wary, though, because a lot of these teams later, as we've seen before, do tend to come in around that GEEKAY field side in a phase 2, the end of phase 1. So they're going to have a more faster looting phase than most and decide a little bit earlier than most because they're central in the zone, and the focus on that center is going to be very high for a lot of those rotating teams later.
Definitely. Current 12 Esports. Man, I'm kind of with them. I really am with them. I've seen what they're able to do, and again, talking to Hazem in the past, he has so much energy, and really I'm on his side in that regard. Arguably, I'm on every team's side, but especially there's a twinkle in the eye for Current 12 coming into this league week 2 for me. So hopefully they can live up to that twinkle or turn that twinkle into a star.
I think it's not just Kurd, and I think also 4K, another one of those teams who we were looking at and saying, well, they are improving, is it's these teams and the natural want, I think, as well, for these teams to improve and become better and better through different seasons. I mean, these are two teams that haven't been performing at the top. 4K have done it. I think now is time for, realistically, Curd 12's chance to step up in this second week. Imperium is to see if they can do that, because it is a pressure on them, and the pressure being higher than before is going to affect potentially their plays, and that's what we're going to have a look at in these 4 teams as well.
CONQUEROR on our screens right now, just playing about the split between GEEKAY and Pachinki Hill. It's a good spot to go to. It's quite centralized, of course, but arguably a great compound to be in. You get a decent bit of oversight around the Pachinki Hill area. POWR Esports are moving forward north down to the GEEKAY area. They do, of course, have that GEEKAY split, so taking advantage of it is quite important. And GEEKAY getting ahead of the likes of Major Pride and R8 going on to Everest as a 2-person team is a really good idea.
Still quiet, though, for his first game in Imperium, nevertheless. And all of these teams, still no one going to drop. Still everyone continuing the looting phase of rotations coming in as that zone is beginning to close. More of those teams like 4K and also RTG rotating from that more eastern side. And a majority of teams inside the zone. But where are we kind of looking, Imperium, for this next position of teams to go, kind of looking at what this zone has in store?
Well, again, because it's a zone that involves quite a good bit of the central area of the map, you can stick around. Ferry Pier Hillside, I would argue, is one of the strongest spots to go to, because no matter where phase 2 shifts, whether it's centralized, whether it's hard shift in one direction, you're able to exit and move around in many different directions and many different path lines from the Ferry Pier Hillside. Never mind the fact that because it has a lot of that kind of really solid high ground overlooking fields, you're able to get a relevant amount of information, whether it's in phase 1, phase 2, or even phase 3 if it's still in the mix. So yeah, Therapy Hillside for me will be one of the strongest spots if you want to go more centralized without being too centered. Quarry Hill as well, an under respected area in my opinion, as well as the observation tower hill that's to the south west of GEEKAY is always a great spot to go to.
Yeah, I'm surprised teams haven't taken up that quarry side. I mean, you have more of that left side and the east where that hill overlooks a lot of those GEEKAY fields and those more wheat fields themselves, whereas the northern side as well, very powerful. Keep in mind, as Miracle is just flipping down that hill. That's one way to get down there. Oh, he's hit a tree. Oh no. Well, at least he blends in. He's green, so it's okay. No one's found him yet. He's back on board.
He landed on his tires. Surely that's a good kind of like 8.9 out of 10, right?
I know, right? I would say actually like it was like a 5 times flip, was it? So I'd actually argue like kind of 9.1. We're heading into the 10s. That was a pretty good flip and fair.
8.9, 9.1. The average is 9, so yeah, let's give him a 9 out of 10. Will we give the phase 2 shift a 9 out of 10? Yeah, fundamentally, because it's away from the majority of the water that's more on that western side, and I think it's certainly within more familiar territory. The big threat, though, however, is that you still have a lot of that flat terrain in the center of the circle, so if you do go there early on, you're committing a lot. It seems to be the case, as whether it's a GEEKAY, whether it's NASR, whether it's POWR, whether it's a CONQUEROR already towards the center, they are going to have to contend with a lot of teams around them.
Still, a lot of those teams very, very centralized Imperium for the beginning phase. And you talked about all of these locations. The interesting part, though, that these spots like Quarry, these spots like the hills coming out of Potato Hill itself, they're more towards the outside of the zone. Is that maybe a mistake that you're seeing for these teams, or is it just because of this natural regional style that we all go towards the center?
It does certainly seem to be a trend that within the region they like to prioritize center of the circle. It's not a bad thing. It comes with consequences like everything as we take a look at the replay of what happened to Miracle. Yeah, it just comes with certain consequences, and if you're able to understand those potential consequences and adjust your positioning, your movement, your peeking around that and respect it, you're able to get the better of it. You're able to come out on top. Right, and whether that's through information, whether that's through pure talent, yeah, you put it all together and you do have a great recipe for success in a central circle compound. It does certainly, within reason, fare off better when it comes to 2 or 3 circle shifts, so you technically have more time to play with. Of course, when you get into the phase 4, phase 5, there's no guarantee that it's going to continue to stay in your direction.
Of course, there are under fire a little bit from SKYROCKET. You saw Ida as well was looking over the position. I think that's a smart adaptation. Now, RA, they did get into a little bit of trouble here in the first week versus SKYROCKET. SKYROCKET also did get into some problems too. So both of these teams changing it up, doing their homework, and being a little bit less aggressive when it comes to this location around the Wizard Tower and crossing that bridge. And SKYROCKET actually very smart and intelligent by them here to say, we know that R8, you are baiting us into this bridge. We will cross around Roshok now while we have the time early, and then we will be able to have a much cleaner rotation later coming in.
Fundamentally, one of the big issues with R8 at the moment, if you want to be super critical and kind of super analytical, is that they're too slow moving into these early circles, right? And then they're not quite able to turn up the heat at the right point. Because when you play edge of circle play, so great, you can arguably, of course, naturally be a little bit slower, but when it comes to phase 3, phase 4, you got to be able to flip that switch, say, hey, we are controlling the edge. All right, haven't really done that so far. They could do it right now if they do get the pick on the ball.
And one pick indeed, but I completely agree with your point there, Imperium. And we saw that in the spring split as well, where R8, you used to see those zones go down to the South Island, and every time R8 would underperform because they wouldn't rotate fast enough, and they paid the price for it when that zone does pick up. This zone is going to move away from them, but naturally it had been shifted more towards them and these northern teams, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue. The only issue is by rotating later, now you have teams in front of them, even like RTG, who started behind them in Yasnaya Polyana, they are now going to begin to cause problems, particularly because R8, they're crossing through a very risky area of Vada Headshot Hills.
And the fact that that right now, obviously, they have literally little to no information to the south of them from that rune's position because there's a massive hill in front of them to the south. OOREDOO Warriors now having a bit of an engagement against, I think it's POWR maybe getting involved in 90th minute, so a little bit of a three-way dance as Phase 3 did shift over to the west.
A big shift as these teams continue to move down on towards that quarry hill. You see 90th minute, they're taking that position up. As already Thunders, they are out of there though, coming into more of that central spot of the zone.
Ooh.
Do get away, won't lose one there. Finally, one drops, but it's 90th Ahmad who falls as they also were looking for that third party potential.
POWR Esports really looking to make a name for themselves in this PMPL Arabia. Succeed or fail, they are, like I said, during the Super Weekend, the most exciting team to watch, and it's no different in terms of League Week 2, and this is exactly how you realistically need to control the early game when you have this kind of Phase 3 shift. Get noisy, get down and dirty, and get aggressive. They will, of course, want to be aware that it does come with risks, such as going too deep, going too hard, getting called out, getting fourth party. NIGMA Galaxy could be a team to slow them down. However, their spread their aggression has been very, very good in this game so far.
And you look also even back to just last weekend, where they had that mega Miramar game in Imperium. They got, I believe it was 14 eliminations. No, 15 it was, with their 4th position overall, and they scored mega points overall. And POWR, when they get on this snowball, it can pick up traction so fast. You can see POWR are that exciting team, but Twisted Minds jumping very head on into NIGMA will be a 1-for-1 trade so far, but NIGMA aren't done yet. They continue even more into the second, and it's 2 down already for Twisted Minds, but still 2 more left. Can Army Ragnarok do anything? No, they will not, and it's decisive, it's swift from NIGMA.
Twisted Minds went for a compound, thought it was free, wasn't free. They got taken out. Now this does give information over to the side of POWR Esports, and they're going to somewhat third party.
Big knock is out Harhe catching down one Enigma off guard. Big can POWR capitalize? Yes, they do. Harhe's making it work once more. 2 knocks already down. Ralph will be the third to succumb to POWR. But can Freak do anything? Do not think so. NIGMA, it's just as quick as Twisted Minds fall. POWR picking up their 7th as still the fighting continues.
Oh man, they're so opportunistic in all of the most beautiful ways. The next circle just center up a bit of a donut shift in around the compound that's to the south of the road across from GEEKAY. You have the hill and compound that POWR Esports in that is still occupied. 4K, who did lose a player earlier on and is still in the mix in a nice position, but they're going to have to deal with already Thunder.
Conqueror gonna fall down here to Cur12 inside the smoke and inside that blue zone. Not sure if that's the fight they really want to take. Conqueror at later rotation. At least they, of course, have Caliga here on the back end. Should be able to punish really highly here Cur12, who have got themselves into a pinned position. Is still even on the opposite end of his zone. 4K and even now teams like NASR moving in, and the fighting continues as here Pride. Nomi trying to come around the smoke, but NASR have completely blocked it out for now, slowly making their approach inside. They look for one, yes they do. They can burn down Miracle. NASR Humama is a quick double pincer down. Is NASR will lose 2 more, and now Major Pride have everything but 1 to the books as they're looking, but Batika is burning, and he is burning down Rado, that third party.
Oh no, an 8 through the window. Batika knew he was down and out. And it was actually by Kato Rad that sealed the deal for NASR in this game. 1 down they go as we're left with now 11 teams as CONQUEROR are going to bite the bullet. Can Rad pick apart Major Pride off the back of a third party?
But look at Kato go down slightly over the top, and it's a beautiful punish as Yen will be able to nade them down. Let the smoke come out. The support from Desherus Rex providing that cover fire, but he's so low. Goes immediately too far forward, and Major Pride quick to punish on a mistake of Rad. But now can he turn it? It's a 3-on-3.
It was certainly a mistake. Why would you go into that building on your own when your teammates just being knocked? On a side note, it was actually a third party by SKYROCKET that got the knock on the head on that. Lee's Rad with just Delhap left and Desha left alive. So it's 2 players left up.
And there's all of that congestion coming from North Belt. They come down from Everest. They're all met on the same compound, Imperium. Major still aren't done yet, though, as Desho is still here. Delhap had now joined into the fight as well. Berard, they are taking a slower approach. They know that Rex made that mistake, and as such, they're going to use his utility. And they're going to miss so for now.
I like the use of utility, but I will argue, especially Major Pride, they're relying too much on utility. I don't know if they know how many players are left up. It can certainly be difficult to track the elimination feed at this stage of the game, especially when you have so many players around you. So maybe that reliance on utility does make sense. So far, Major Pride still alive. Phase 4 Blue Zone getting to the very tail end. And right now, nobody's in the center of the circle, by the way. All of these teams are in around the edges.
Rada playing a very risky game right now and trying to call the bluff of Major Pride. Say you don't have any more utility, both being inside that shed, asking, quite frankly, to be blown up. Major Pride also taking a slower approach. Won't step out just yet. They know that there's teams around the corner. Of course, Road to Glory also trying to find punish through that smoke. Road is, keep in mind, the zone has shifted down towards that southeastern end and away from a majority of these teams.
Oh man, this fight is still going strong between Major Pride and Rad Power Esports. Gonna have asked for a better circle shifter. Frozen is gonna open that door. Freeze, Desha.
That was a beautiful angle through from Major Pride, and that might have just turned the fight for them. They punished down onto Desha, they punished away Delhap, and that might have just been the best nade I've seen all tournament.
Beautiful, beautiful, clean, cool, and calculated by Frozen. They are running out of time. They have a bit of a distance to travel to make it into the edge of the circle. Kurt12 in their own right being gate-kept by 4K. This is a replay of what happened to the final player of CONQUEROR, by the way, but like I said, Kurt12 in their own right are technically being gate-kept by 4K a little bit on the eastern edge of the circle.
Still, a majority of those teams, Imperium, none of them really inside that circle. That's the issue of the zone being, again, in Gatka Fields. Very open. There are some more terrain, higher parts for that more south side of the road. You can see that Major Pride are making a quick push into that location, but a quick push will not be the case for Triple, as they will already lose one, and GEEKAY will continue the assault. They will find the secondary knockdown, and Triple are being bombarded as a third will clean up the rest. It is only Clever there in the bush, but what can Clever do, because GEEKAY are everywhere. Now Satan searching around the back end and looking for that final player. Wizard will fall down, and Clever not long away.
It was not a clever push by Triple Esports at all. Luckily, Clever is going to be able to find one knock in the Satan. His teammate YWZ3
RTG
is with him within reason, but again, it was silly, and luckily RTG are coming in for the third party.
RTG might have just said Triple is your ass, gets the time bought to come into the zone. GEEKAY looking very heavily. All three of the players you can see in towards Triple. Is that going to punish him? Yes, it will. Did not even see it coming. An RTG strike to knock down. It might be the tale of third parties in this game. Is here. GEEKAY will at least find an extra onto Triple, but RTG are done yet. Finally, Triple will be silenced, but equally so will GEEKAY. And RTG send them silently into the night as OOREDOO Thunders and POWR continue the onslaught.
Great play by Ragnar. I like the fact that he stayed composed. Assassin is going to be composed with that nade towards Aziz. Connects wonderfully Highland as the first knock is made open.
And a big zone shift as well. Imperium down towards that south end in favor. They're the duo of POWR, but they are not together. They are that 2-2 split. And as you can see, that affects their strength coming into this zone. Canteen as is, can't rejoin as OOREDOO remains standing and will block off. And therefore, now POWR need to be able to punish OOREDOO. The zone should help them, but it's still 10 seconds away, and OOREDOO know they need to make the move.
Mentioned about Kurt12 being somewhat gate-kept by 4K in the previous shift. More power now as they have to technically go through them to make it into the edge of the circle. 4K were patient on that previous shift. They have a free entry point because of OOREDOO Thunder's push towards POWR Esports. That south side is pretty clear.
In code 12, losing down for the one of RTG.
Okay,
his vault will get dropped, but his arm is there. Just still sends it in. I mean, maybe a bit too much there. It was code 12 will fall down. Only 6 eliminations for them. They will suffer that 6th position as well, as SKYROCKET will be there to join them immediately after OOREDOO. The zone, as we said, it's begun to move in behind them, and POWR. The dire problem now for OOREDOO is that they joined up. They couldn't stop that smoke road being successful.
POWR Esports didn't really cover their backs as heavily, so there is still a little bit of a headache behind them in the form of OOREDOO Thunder, but I do also appreciate that they are being not so narrow-minded to look ahead of them as well in their own right and put a lot of pressure into Major Pride.
Major Pride, they're feeling it. They've got one down, one eliminated, and it is a disaster to get back into this zone, still outside of it as well, but they need the recovery plan first. Is POWR a clean 2-2? You can see that on the wide angle, Imperium. They are making sure that back and the front end is taken care of acceptably. It's now RTG moving and making that next move, but Major Pride, can they come up now to be able to punish them?
It's a cluster on that northeastern side of the map, and 4K are going to reap the rewards.
4K. They have their position set up, as you said. They have come into the zone. We'll find now. J9, that'll be the second of their efforts. But Anaconda immediately taken away is unknown. Only has one more first aid, and POWR also feeling the pressure of 4K from the second angle is Vankid trying to fire back, but neither will find success. But look at the back end of 4K Imperium. They are in tatters, and you can see is now Major Pride push and finish RTG. Are they going to be swift enough to punish 4K? No, I do not think so. It's here 4K making the revives. OOREDOO not able to live any longer though. It's POWR 17 eliminations. They are blowing open this game. It's Major Pride 9 for themselves, but they cannot push up anymore. 4K, the revives are through and they need that nade to land. And it does.
Yes. Yes, they can. Yes, they will. Yes, they do. That little bit more time, it could be more cleanly executable with POWR finishing off OOREDOO Thunder so swiftly. That third-party threat is there for Major Pride.
It's double digits for Major as well in this first match. 10 eliminations, make it maybe 11, maybe make it 12. It's there all over them. On a knock is the only one remaining. Where is the other member of 4K? Silently waiting, trying to get that top 2 position. But Dari, they know where they are.
Oh, so the madness has happened and we're down to our final 3 teams. Pride are still moving. I appreciate that they're still fighting. 4K are forced down. And POWR, even though they have a player knocked, they're still on the tear.
POWR, 17 eliminations so far. Just make it 18. They don't stop yet. And they're looking for a fantastic opening in onto this first game of the second week here. Looking for even more. We'll find Major Pride. They are tearing through team after team from limb to limb, Imperium.
There's 2 players left, 4v2. It is there.
And it's all dead down for Major Pride. POWR, a 20+ elimination game, a chicken dinner on board. This is the dream start, Imperium, that these teams hope for.
POWR Esports say to the rest of the lobby, anything you can do, we can't do better, because that was a hell of a show they put on for us. It started so early on in the game as well, right? That's what I'm talking about. Early on, when you're able to kind of lay the foundations by being a little bit more aggressive, taking a couple more risks, it not only gives you as a team confidence within that game, but it also says to the rest of the lobby when those elimination confirmations come through that they don't want to go near you, and everything that came POWR's way, they dealt with. There was a little bit of a threat of not as comfortably covering their backs as idealistic it would like to have seen. But the way they played it in the end, the way they closed it out, at the end of the day, it was a wonderful game. And 36 points, the highest individual game result in PMPL Arabia so far. Take that right to the bank.
It was a fantastic game from POWR, and it's not like this is the first time we've seen it, Imperium.
Yeah.
We talked about it, and making these consistent big games is so huge as a statement for POWR to make here against all of the rest of them. Major Pride still also stepping up, our other aggressive team coming into league stage, making those 24 points, those 12 eliminations to finish off 4K. But it's again, I think, these same teams that we are talking about making their moves from the Super Weekend and having that success again here.
Give it a little bit of a perspective on how much of a reward, arguably, even though we're only in one game of League Week 2, but how much of a reward POWR get for what is a building of confidence through risks and exciting gameplay over the first week. In League Week 1, they scored themselves a total of 47 points. So they've scored like as nearly as many points in one game compared to 8 games across League Week 1. So well done,
Indeed.
POWR Esports. Also shout out to Cur12 picking up 6 points in their own right. I think it's one of the more positive starts for themselves.
And I believe it was about 45 points or so was the cut-off for that 16th position that 4K has. Yeah, so they already are very close to that mark after just one game. Unfortunately, more needs to be done by these teams on the second page. Rad stepping into that 9th position with only 4 total points. NIGMA again falling short, I think, to what was the fury of POWR through this matchup in a lot of those teams beforehand.
Definitely unlucky for NIGMA, to be fair. Definitely unlucky because they dealt with Twisted Minds as quickly as they could. Like, genuinely, they couldn't have dealt with Twisted Minds any quicker. It was just unfortunate because they were later to that area compared to POWR Esports. They didn't know the POWR were there.
Yeah. I think that mistake, also opportunistic though, through from Alahahe to not maybe turn around and look at your backs, but as you say, they got very excellently that punished and that finished through onto Twisted Minds. And as we take a look at those best oppo moments of that first game, realistically, I assume it's just going to be like a POWR Esports highlight reel.
It should pretty much be a POWR Esports highlight reel. It shouldn't be the Oppo moments. It should be the POWR Esports moments with how much are going to be featured,
moments,
of course.
Yes. That's exactly what we need.
4K had a pretty okay game. I still need to see more aggression from them. I understand the benefit of them playing a little bit more passive and getting into the late game and that working for them. Yeah. However, again, that's only going to get them so far. They're going to hit that brick wall, and I think in the Super Weekend, that's where we see the risk of that, the negative part of that come through. It's going to work in League Week. That's okay. I still want to see more from 4K.
Yeah, 4K, they are staying in it, but can they give us that oomph, I think, that we're really looking for? Give us that POWR Esports energy that we're searching for. As I think a lot of those other teams, though, like also Major Pride, GEEKAY as well, stepping into that top 8 position, starting to see, as we said, the trend of these same teams back on top of the leaderboards. Is this kind of a shift that we are seeing in narrative of which teams we're saying are the best in the region, at least for the first week so far?
No, it's not comfortable to say, right? Because, again, we're only a week in. So we can only, within reason, compare teams from one week to the next. That's why I highlighted POWR Esports between week 1 and the start of week 2. And yes, a solid, okay improvement for Major Pride between week 1 and week 2. We're still not there really solidifying the top teams just yet.
Indeed, but what we can solidify, Imperium, is in-game your own rewards here with the Grizzly Bear card collection. Join the card collection, draw and win outfits. There's a chance to get all the pieces of an item in one go. I will always and forever keep my true love of the bear suit and the explorer hat on top. But I'm also kind of ready for Imperium. So we had the bear jokes last week. What are we kind of feeling like this week? Do we have the facts? Do we have the jokes lined up?
Well, the Grizzly Bear card collection is a hell of a collection to get, and it's color brown, and the brown bear is the largest predator still living on the continent of Europe. So that's an interesting fact. So if you want to be as strong and powerful as a bear, you need to live in Europe and learn off the brown bear.
Look, hey, I mean, if they bring in the power, they inciting the power of that brown bear power in that first game, let them do it all over again. Yes, we're checking out that schedule because Sanhok is going to be the next one here, Imperium. It's about as chaotic as you can ask for. And unfortunately for Group D, they are going to be sitting out as Group E will be joining the mix in. Two of our non-qualifying Super Weekend teams back now for their own chance.
Are you saying unfortunately or fortunately?
Oh, well, I was going to say unfortunately because they miss out on the action, but is it that bad if they miss out on Sanhok?
Okay, look, either way, they're going to play 4 Sanhoks, right? So,
right, exactly.
Even though they're not going to play 2 today, they'll play 3 tomorrow, so they'll, it'll end up biting them in the butt a little bit. Yeah. So, technically fortunate, but you do make a good point. Somewhat potentially unfortunate. And indeed, yeah, the two teams from Group B are coming into the mix for the first time in this league week 2. We indeed did have a little bit of an okay start from CONQUEROR and SKYROCKET. More so CONQUEROR because I think they were a little bit noisier. We saw them take a fight against CONQUEROR and come out on top, right? It was hard for Hazem to kind of make it into the edge of the circle with what 4K kind of did to the rest of the team leading into that phase. He just needed to go for broke and he got taken out. So still an okay start. Will we see better from VISTA and Falcon Esports? Out of the two, I have a little bit more confidence on Falcon because again they've given us much more of an identity of their play style, not only in the past but even in the present. And even though it hasn't worked in League Week 1, it's still an identity. I don't identify Vista Gaming with anything bar dropping on NIGMA, and that's not really a good identity to have at the moment in the PMPL Arabia. So I'm hoping that they're going to show us more, but I have more confidence in Falcon at the moment, at least.
Yeah, of course, Falcons and VISTA. This is going to be their first attempt at Sanhok. We've not seen what they can offer. Falcons, we've seen them before as an organization, so a little bit more expectant of what we can see from them. But for VISTA, you make a good point there, Imperium, that we've not really seen this org play before on a Sanhok in this type of competition. So are they going to maybe again take those drop spots? I'm hoping they're going to look for their own location because that did seem to be the crux, right? When we saw a lot of those teams who didn't make it. I mean, Falcons also versus RTG, right? In Yasna Polyana, where RTG had a good first week in those first 2 days. You see that by trying to contest teams, yes, it can bring that big points coming in through the eliminations early, but it can also make such a risk that you get taken out as we jump on into that second Sanhok match. Imperium, it's going to be still a very clean playing path where everyone can go where they want to go.
I think for Vista Gaming, Team Falcons, and also SKYROCKET and CONQUEROR, because again, this is their first Sanhok game, so all 4 teams that didn't qualify, they're playing in this Sanhok game.
Yes.
I think taking into account the teams who aren't playing in this first Sanhok game of the week, NASR Esports, Road to Glory, Triple Esports, and Twisted Minds, if you want to, maybe adjust your drop spot to drop where they drop. Right? So
That's
it's a little
true.
bit of a freer space. It's not going to be the case, as it seems like 2 of the teams that didn't make it into the first Super Weekend are dropping on each other in the form of CONQUEROR and SKYROCKET.
I don't know why. It seems a bit silly. You can see each other in that location. You can always move further towards that more coastal line of the center part of the Northwest Island, which is slightly closer to the L compound. We've seen teams do that in the past. Also, unfortunately for Rad, seems to be caught out here with NIGMA surrounding this solo player, and it just seems like Rad is getting caught out here on a bad drop.
The split drop that Rad looked to uphold between Runes and Tambang, it should have been two in Tambang. I don't get why he was there. To give him a little bit of a defense, NIGMA Galaxy don't normally drop that far up towards the center of the Southwest Island, and now the fight is breaking out between YALLA and GEEKAY.
A old fight here, I think it's going to be one for the ages throughout the tournament. GEEKAY, they won it last time, but can YALLA succeed this time around? YALLA taking a slightly slower approach, but you can see GEEKAY making that big flank around. Saif inside the building, Life as well, finds a pot shot to drop down. Satan will be punished. Secondary though is Ragnar. Finds one but can't find extra. It's a punish from YALLA. Seems a lot more clean this time, Imperium. Sanji firing through, trying, yes they will, to success to find a 1-for-1 now versus each other.
YALLA do indeed come out on top. GEEKAY are out. That is the first game of Sanhok of the day involving the two teams. That we will see that boot camp, and who will come out on top at the end of the league week. Could it be the reason why one of these teams don't make it into the second Super Weekend? That's something that we're, of course, going to have to keep an eye on. Could be the same thing as this, the poor man's boot camp battle between SKYROCKET and Cur 12 starting to kick off.
Is that what we call the camps? Just a poor man's boot camp? I mean, SKYROCKET, they seem like they got a compound on the log, but for now, well, they've infiltrated. It's a double for Shadows, who just mops the floor with SKYROCKET's members. They're being sent down to ground zero right now as they are sent for the hills.
A great job by Cur 12, not only because even though it looked like Cheetos was pushing on his own, his team was definitely very close behind him, and it was a great individual reaction from Cheetos, but as a team, very well performed. The other thing is that SKYROCKETs automatically were dropping, kind of split in that area. One of the SKYROCKETs players was in around the mountain top of that Northwest Island. They had one player drop a little bit further south, so they weren't even in a real position to kind of take a team fight against Cur 12. I don't know how much Cur 12 knew this, but the fact that they took that engagement with such confidence is kind of part of why I kind of gave credit to Cur 12 in game one. They look hungrier. They look like they really want to put themselves into that second Super Weekend, where SKYROCKETs and definitely playing a little bit more scared, a little bit more passive, a little bit more uncertain across these first two games.
And it's interesting you note that change, because SKYROCKET were one of these teams in the first week, Imperium, that played with mega confidence. They were, quite frankly, rolling over their opponents with their vehicles, and then after they got shut down, after that second game, they seem to have lost that momentum, and it's that downward decline that is it that psychological barrier that's affecting them?
True. Possibly. You could also, if you want to look at it in a little bit more of a statistical standpoint and correlate an idea around it, in that first league week, they only had 12 placement points. So maybe they're trying to play a little bit more passive and play for that late game, and then hopefully be able to pick up as many eliminations as they did in League Week 1 to, of course, boost them into the second Super Weekend. If that's the case, I kind of give them credit for it, right? To attempt to show a bit of adaptability. It does take longer than a couple of days. It can take a bit more time. So if they're straying too far away from their natural strengths and their natural play style, which has been a bit more aggressive so far in the PMPL, it could go against them in the end. So we'll have to wait and see.
Could work out. I like for making that adaptation. You said teams who aren't playing in this match, and as a result, SKYROCKET, they move over towards the L compound, where that is going to be a little bit more free. Twisted Mind's not there to contest it this time around. So making good work of that information of teams, it won't be in that lobby. R8 though, gonna take down the knock as the only one, find a very long range nade, and with that knock, with the secondary nade on top, that now allows the only one to push up and work out even more ground against him.
We haven't even really had too much time to talk about this phase 1 with all the action that's happened so far. It is very, very east. Not so east that it's like 40% water, but it's so east that it's pretty much guaranteed to be a mainland finish. And surprisingly, R8 disengaged away from Paradise Resort much earlier than normal.
Yes.
Not in a bad way. Again, not in a bad way. Really, not in a bad way. I kind of give them credit for it. However, they might have just rotated a little bit blindly into this area of the map, a little bit unfamiliar maybe from past Sanhok games, of course, as we've only had 3 so far in PMPL, and the only were around the hillside of
Paradise Resort, right?
Ban, and yeah, they got an elimination point for it. So well done, the only one, and unfortunate for R8.
Yeah, I mean, R8 and coming into that uncharted territory, really. And I think it's a lot of also the teams that are around Paradise Resort tending to actually come out into those hills, like you say, at Barn around this time as well. So mistiming from R8 overall. I actually think that R8, they could move slightly further down on top of this, though, as they are beginning to do, and try to focus up really that quarry side and focus on that more eastern side of Quarry Hill. Could be a point for them to contest, but then you also have to run the risk of those teams around Quarry that are beginning to be there. Is that then going to lock them in too hard?
It could. It remains to be seen. It's all about how they adapt to it. 4K right now, they're down on the more southwestern side of Quarry. They still have a pretty heavy split. They will want to be aware of potentially NIGMA Galaxy coming in, although quite late into phase 1, arguably. They will still want to consider that threat from behind. Major Pride playing in around the Kampong Docks side of the map. They have a good spread on this southeastern side of the circle, and 90th minute actually sending 2 players out on a boat.
I like it.
To rotate over to the mainland, probably ending up around Mong Nai. Yeah, I low-key like it a lot.
I think that the rotation on Sanhok is still very much underrated. I mean, yes, teams punish it on the highest levels more so, but for 90th minute, they understand it as zone. Teams are going to be more central towards that more main part of the mainland, whereas this outskirts, like as you say, Mong Nai, even Cow, where they do seem to be dropping here and coming back in, gives them so much leeway. And keep in mind that zone could still shift very high up north, and then you're in a world where 90th minute have so much leverage on this second match.
Yeah, it's just being able to pull out a little bit of a surprise play in that regard. And we see phase 2 pop up, and it goes up towards the northeast once again. So this is good. Again, guaranteed to be a mainland finish. Definitely shifting towards areas of the map that teams might not be as familiar with in terms of circle finishes. So I'm super excited to see how these teams play around rotations and positionings of this phase 2.
I actually think that Pride as well, one of these teams who, talking about positions and rotations, can take advantage of this change in zone and actually utilize the coastal line and come along that coast in towards the zone. Because keep in mind that much of that coastline is still going to be available in this phase 2. Phase 3, maybe that changes, but for now, getting into that zone and avoiding the central belt of teams and that dangerous crossing there, certainly an option, and maybe even an option for some of these teams who are further out, like NIGMA potentially as well.
Or 12 do have to make their way into the mainland. Yalla looking to take advantage of Vista Gaming rotating. I don't get why Vista Gaming felt like they needed to reposition off their spot, off their area from phase 1. It wasn't a bad spot to be. They were still relatively inside the circle, and because they go in blind, teams were already locked in from phase 1, and yeah, they lose 2 players. So unnecessary from Vista Gaming.
It's down to Yalla, though, getting those now 5 juicy eliminations for themselves. And I want to hear me out, okay, Imperium. Are we ever going to see like a barn finish? Is he the only one also versus R8? is that going to be the case? Because these players, they start in this location. Are they going to end here maybe one day?
Yeah, ban finishes are always a pain in the butt. Notoriously, CONQUEROR absolutely hates them. I definitely understand, because ban is just not nice at all. Well, not surprised. Luffy looking for a little bit of a pick off one of the RA players. This is part 2, the sequel of this fight, and it seems like it's going a little bit more towards RA this time. They picked up a knock, and it's going to be a loose finished off.
Do I get my popcorn here? Is this what we're seeing? Are we seeing the action thriller part 2 of R8 versus the only one? It seems to be a bit quiet. I want to see just a team just walk in, just no cares. Who cares about PMPL Imperium? I want to see them throw it to like the climax of the film.
I think all these teams, to be fair, care about PMPL. I know. Generally, we kind of care about the action, but yeah, these teams certainly do care about PMPL, and
I just want to see death from them. I just want to see them just fight it out and just see all of them now go for it. I mean, rightly so. A lot at stake here, particularly for the only one, as we said, down in that 16th position, certainly looking for that good result, have shown a bit more when it comes to that first game, but the second game still needs more to be done.
90th minute, once again taking advantage of the rotation, the open area around this northern side of the circle off the back of that phase 2 shift up towards the northeast. Falcons are coming in a little bit later, but again, they have a bit of space around them because Vista Gaming decided to reposition for absolutely no reason at all. And is that Rad taking a rotation on phase 2? That's a potential oof. It could work out. A lot
very
of
far.
Yeah, very, very risky with that.
I mean, they're going to take a lot of damage. They're going to lose a lot of their utility coming in now to phase 3 as well. Has gone slightly further away towards barn, mind you. I like it. The zone is on point to where I want it to be. Maybe not for these players, but for these rotations, even like NIGMA, who are so far out, they're going to have absolutely no clue of where these teams are going to be on a very tricky and unknown zone like it is in here phase 3.
These warehouses on the hills to the south of the warehouse are so valuable on this circle shifting. You can see multiple teams have gone for the same kind of rotation, right? 4K, CONQUEROR, even to an extent Vista Gaming once again as a duo, feeling like they need to reposition a circle shift. Potentially unnecessary. Yeah, okay, they take advantage of a third party, but it's not without the risks as 1 to 4K players are pushing in and Profit is knocked.
And Vista as well, going to suffer 1 knock as well. 1 elimination is 1 for now. Put on the board for 4K, but you can see it's only 1 player remaining, and on a knock is the sole survivor. Puts down the smokes, but reveals the position, of course, with that too. Is CONQUEROR not really focused, though, thankfully, on them, and it seems to be trying a rescue mission. But from CONQUEROR on the back head, taking down Anaconda, silences him down to that solo.
That's why I said the hillside to the south of these warehouses, and that's the perfect angle that CONQUEROR played into this position, right? Where they didn't commit too much compared to the likes of 4K and Vista Gaming. They have so much elevation from the high ground in towards those warehouses. So really great understanding by CONQUEROR as R8 picks up another elimination point, and although it goes against him as the only one got the squad wipe.
And the only one taking out R8, where it's a second unfortunate game for R8, going to need to pick it up because they will not be playing one of these games later today as well. So only 2 more chances for them in this first day to be able to get those points. Hopefully they can do so just that. Is also a lot of, I think, red herrings when it comes to the compounds in this location of the zone, in that you saw that warehouse was very open, and even the likes of Camp Bravo, particularly tricky, I think, to navigate around. So these teams, as much as they have compounds available to them, Imperium, maybe not as nice as where we'd expect them to be elsewhere on Sanhok.
Swinging through the west in a good compound. There is a hill to the east of them, and I'd like to see them send 1 player there. This is the threat of rotating a little bit later into the game, despite the circle shifting away from you. that threat was always going to be there for Rad, and 90th minute are indeed going to look to take advantage of it. There is a bit of a compound that they're able to kind of get to. As the next circle shifts even more south, it's only going to be more of a challenge for Rad.
But I mean, NIGMA as well, getting so much in this game by that zone going so far down for them. They'd only just come into that zone now, so getting now those members further forward will help a lot. As we check out the replay here, Sanjay, a beautiful shot, I believe, through the tree line. One shot, one knock onto Smoker.
Falcon Esports getting in and around NIGMA Galaxy's territory. You could say the other way around, right? Because Falcon were ahead of them, and maybe they didn't watch their backs enough. I don't know what happened, but they've allowed NIGMA Galaxy to enter this area into the edge of the circle, especially as it has shifted down south. I would argue they shouldn't have let that happen.
Rad still continuing, though, in on the edge. Calm Bravo. They are edging their way in. They've got their hap as well on the back end, so they've already leaned in towards the healing strat, understanding that they are very late on into this zone. Down, of course, in towards Barn. It's very terrain-based here on this final phase 4 shift. A lot of the hills going to be very stark differences, and you can see that as YALLA begin to rotate in more and more, these teams catching them on those lower dips from hill to hill. The only one as well, alongside Conqueror, I think have one of the strongest 2 positions here of this zone, particularly Conqueror in that center, looking very formidable.
Definitely indeed. Falcon getting a bit of a pick off one of the current 12 players from the southwestern side. That will give a lot of positive information over to NIGMA Galaxy as they are in around that area compared to Team Falcons, like I highlighted earlier on. POWR playing in on towards the edge. They do have a little bit of distance to go with 90th minute behind them. They might get slowed down, and again, the zone does become a little bit more challenging once it hits the end of phase 4 coming into phase 5.
Where this zone will go, but that is the question. Is POWR making their own rotations in, but they're going into everyone. Here is the only one in YALLA to kick off the fight. POWR will be there to the third party, but I don't think they know quite how hectic it's going to be right now. Is the only one stepping up for the shots, but YALLA dip dodge behind the rock.
Dodge, just the 5Ds of PUBG Mobile and Sanhok, especially if you're going to get aggressive, if you're going to get noisy, you got to really be able to dodge those bullets, dip around, and of course play it through, and the only one have gotten rid of YALLA along the way.
But it was Kurt12 at third party getting those knocks down, and the only one they understand that they had to now clear out a secondary team. They do so, at least for now. Keeping them at bay is Kazem will be the next to fall out to the play zone. Rad as well going to fall too in their Rad as a whole will be eliminated. Falcons also coming in now onto the zone. They have their position alongside NIGMA and Pride, but the rest of these teams, Imperium, is a long stretch down in.
You highlighted CONQUEROR's position earlier on, and certainly I still look at them as being the leaders of this game in terms of power, in terms of movement, in terms of position. They've been proactive already. Yes, they do still need to get into the edge of the circle, but once they get there, it's theirs for the take, and this is looking to be a very good result for CONQUEROR.
They do have many teams to hold off for now. Is they're the only one make a big dive in, sending Nar in, so it will get at least one of their members for now to the zone, but problems will continue the healing strategy to keep them alive. Only one though remaining of that first aid kit, and that's not great, Imperium. I wanted to see more than that on his package.
Well, it's not going to be the case. It's going to be the case that POWR Esports are powering their way into the edge of the circle. I said it could be a very good result for CONQUEROR, but if POWR Esports have anything to say about it, they're going to make them pay, and indeed they do.
And POWR struck down CONQUEROR, taking at least one for now away. But Cardi is going in deep into CONQUEROR, finds a punish onto Rever, but immediately punished back by Shrod. But there they too will fall as VanKid is behind them, and it's disaster for CONQUEROR as they cannot hold off the end. And NIGMA, the zone going towards them as Lord caught on transition though. Yes, the zone is theirs, but can they hold it now with that knock?
Nice play from Pride. They have a 3-1 split coming into the eastern edge of the circle with the likes of CONQUEROR and POWR Esports taking each other out. They still have so much space in front of them. POWR go down, and Major Pride are going to be the ones to do it.
They're the only team left with all 4 players standing Imperium. They've been slowly from the lake, from the coast side, as we said, making those wider rotations in. Now it pays off. They do lose one Nocthos. Milky Way will be punished potentially here, as yes they do. Hermodi will be able to pick up at least one to stop the push, but Falcons are behind them as well, and it's a 2-piece puzzle for NIGMA to solve.
They've got the knock onto one of the Pride players. In my opinion, they shouldn't be looking as heavily in their direction. They've already lost a player. They know that they're there, and they need to focus on the side of Falcons.
The zone as well heads in towards Major Pride, a blessing for them, but they have to continue to hold. Finally, NAR falls in the 4th position. He only won a fantastic game with their 7-8 eliminations. 8 it was. It's now NIGMA. As you said it, haven't been looking behind him. Yusef lines up the nade. He bowls it over. Yes, he doesn't know find a knock, but Rauf, very low indeed.
Circle shifting towards Major Pride. It's great. They have a couple of hard rocks in front of them. Although the 2 players that are behind that massive rock are not in the circle. So Yen, who's a little bit out in the open, is going to have to be the one to really open that door for his 2 teammates to push in.
Yen, the only one in the zone here is Falcons. They are trying to edge in, ignore here NIGMA in a way. Yusuf is still keeping an eye on them, bowling even more of those nades across. We'll have to finally move in onto the zone. Gets behind the hillside for now. The smoke's clearing out the way as well for them. Building a pathway as Rauf sending even more smokes. Rowe crossing over, but in between the gaps he falls as it catch him from the crossing to the next, and Rauf will be collected by SF. Won't fall in return. Freak steps out, but Hermodi will at least now find Jen. And for Major Pride, it is disastrous. Both teams, NIGMA, Falcons, come on them at once. In Pride, they just can't hold it. Best Nomi is barely alive. Gets one, but Falcons looking to steal away potentially this game. Major Pride still alive though, Imperium. Falcons continuing to push. Yusuf takes a bit of the blue damage, comes further in. Pride Yen will fall. Now it's all down to Nomi. The molly barely misses out. The Falcons continuing to slowly look. Yusuf finding the angle. Maybe they can poke out the feet. Nomi steps out, but Nomi should have thought better than that. As being Falcons, they will be able to get that 2nd place. Freak continuing the healing strategy, but a brilliant game from Falcons here in Imperium. They're going to clean up the chicken dinner, and Freak will fall silently away in that 2nd place.
A little bit of circle look going Falcons' way when they needed to kind of wake up, when they needed to turn that dial up to 11. They did so in the right way. I really appreciated that they got involved in that engagement towards Major Pride, right? That they really pushed and took advantage of the bodies that they had. There was a point where Major Pride had the body advantage, but between NIGMA and Galaxy slowing them down and then Falcons getting involved, it just went horribly wrong. And like I said, Team Falcons, their aggression, their proactivity towards the late game was very good to see.
Very good indeed. I think for Falcons, needing that big game, so important for them because, again, they didn't qualify for that first Super Weekend Imperium. So getting now that safety net, if you like, of that chicken dinner for extra elimination points, can they continue to build it from there, though? They need to continue this good work that they've done now in that 2nd game because they aren't out of the woods yet. And we know Falcons, they have a lot of pressure, as we say, to be able to make it through.
They've probably put a lot of pressure onto themselves. Nobody will have been as disappointed about them not qualifying for the first Super Weekend as themselves. Let's be fair about that, right? The players are some of the most critical, self-critical people in esports, right? So they will know how hard it was on themselves. And like I said, coming into League Week 2, I wanted to see the 14s that didn't make it in come into this league week and go, okay, well, we have learned, we've adapted, we've taken the time away that we didn't play games, and we're going to come into this league week swinging. And Falcons in this game too swung. I think they could have been like a little bit more shut down towards the McGagsy earlier on in the game to make it a bit easier in the late game. To be fair to be fair to them in a bit more of a critical sense. Well, like I said, when they did need to turn that dial up to 11 in terms of the whole lobby, they did so in the right way. And yeah, I've asked for a better result for them.
As we check out those match rankings here, Imperium from that second game, Falcons undoubtedly in that pole position, but the only one, we said getting those 8 elimination points, getting those 8 placement points indeed, with NAR getting into that few final shifts, very crucial for the only one as well, in a crucial game again for NIGMA, who are the other team here to need those points.
Yeah, NIGMA certainly needed points. It's Sanhok. They were the highest performing team in Sanhok across the first weekend, so I'm kind of less surprised by that per se. Very happy with the only one, and we've touched upon it. When it comes to the super weekend, they're the team with the lowest amount of points of only 770, so they're the technical cutoff point. So them making it into the second super weekend is not only so much better for themselves, but it's so much harder for the teams that didn't make it into the first super weekend, because it becomes a rolling target, and that's a little bit tougher to deal with across the 3 days.
Indeed, as we check out that second page, is OOREDOO is going to be heading up the top of it. GEEKAY and SKYROCKET, a surprising, I think, for GEEKAY in terms of being so far down on that leaderboard. I think SKYROCKET and VISTA, though, 2 teams who are on the bottom, going to need big points now as we check out our third game. But before that, we will be heading to a break with all our best Oppo moments and the highlights. Welcome everyone back here to the PMPL Arabia Full Season. Myself, Hannah Wolf, and Imperium alongside you. And of course, wouldn't be without our beautiful Oppo Reno 7 down below, Imperium, with upgrade performance and upgraded fun. Celebrate your winning spirit with the brand new Oppo Reno 7 Pro 5G, the designated smartphones for PUBG Mobile, Middle East, and Africa Esports 2022. But the energy, Imperium, definitely hyped up though on Sanhok.
Yeah, you could say possibly Monster Energy, right? Brought to Sanhok, where we should get used to this. Despite it being a mainland finish, it doesn't mean you're not guaranteed to have hard circle shifts, and it can be such a heavier punishment in Sanhok. And I think it was a good example in that game. We didn't really talk about CONQUEROR and what they failed to do in the late stages. Early game, their rotation was great. Their setup was brilliant. Their positioning was extremely valuable. But then when we did see the hard shift down south, not only were they a little bit too slow to rotate as a team, they didn't watch their backs as clearly, and they got caught out in a big way.
Yeah, indeed. And I think when you're looking towards the likes of Sanhok, a lot of these teams also, again, prioritizing on that later point of action as we check out, again, Erangel vote as we're heading down onto the total of the Erangel Green Rolling Hills. And when also we got to talk about the plane path here, Imperium, heading again towards the south side, but it's going to be very southern. So we are kind of looking towards, realistically, that teams on the northern end not going to have maybe as much leverage on this as they would have on the south.
Oh, it's a pain in the ass plane path, realistically. Yeah, okay, as it gets more towards the eastern side, it is tiny bit healthier, but this is not a good plane path for a lot of these teams. 90th minute, they're going to be good going towards Primorsk, and kind of western side area is a bit of a split. They will want to be careful because there's a bit of a higher chance there's going to be more traffic around them leading into the early parts of the game because of that very southern shift. Of course, a new game, new groups in play. That's going to be groups A, B, D, and E. So group C not into the mix. 4K, CONQUEROR, OOREDOO Thunder, and POWR Esports. So that's why you might be wondering, why is Military Island free? The two teams that drop around Military Island, OOREDOO Thunders and Rad, not here in this Game 3. And I'm kind of surprised that teams aren't aware of that and in any way switching up their drop spot. Because arguably, if you're like Curd 12, it wouldn't be a bad thing for Go to Novo because it is still within their technical pathing line and they have obviously more space to loot up and less risks involved. To counter that, though, in my own way, they might think that other teams are going there, so there's technically a little bit more security in going to their normal drop spot.
90th minute, going to have a field day with this zone going towards them. And a lot of those teams, they've all moved across to that eastern side. Going to be very hectic. I mean, Imperium, how many teams are even on that eastern coastal line?
That's like saying how many pickles are in a pickle jar, right?
Right. That's a lot of
pickles. A lot of pickles. No, they're pickles.
Oh, sorry, the pickles. Okay.
Pickles.
Okay. I mean, there is a green team there, so they could also, yeah. I see where we're going.
And okay, so Vista, SKYROCKET, he's dropping around Ferry here. It's a bit of a threat with Vista Gaming getting first pick off anyway.
SKYROCKET's gonna fall, and it was a crucial, I think, fight here for Vista as well, because both of these teams not qualified in the first Super Weekend. They haven't had a great performance so far in these first two games, so particularly bad for SKYROCKET, who, keep in mind, they've already gonna miss out on that last match, whereas Vista have all of the remaining games to play today. So for Vista, very fantastic that they took that first elimination for them.
Just looking at where teams are located around this phase number 1, and they've gone obviously now towards your normal drop, so it's barred a little bit of craziness on that eastern side of the map. RTG, like, getting out of dodge, right? So are YALLA. It's not without a couple of casualties. RTG still up as a full squad. YALLA still up as a full squad. Playing more towards a northern rotation is certainly healthier if you're the likes of R8, GEEKAY, NASR, and NIGMA Galaxy, albeit NIGMA are still inside the circle. I'm curious to see how Cur12 are going to make it in, right? Because they should know that Twisted Minds are in front of them.
It's going to be, I think, a very quiet for the first phase. So it's going to be a lot of better rotations here. Imperium on those teams rotating from, of course, that eastern belt. Now, are we going to see, I think, realistically, a bit of hectic rotations in around that main part of the crossing of Erangel from Potato Hill? Yes, but I think also you're looking actually towards those northern rotations, those southern rotations again on the South Island, because they are so underutilized, actually, I think, in this region as a whole, Imperium, where teams aren't using the wider angles of these maps to get a better rotation in. We sort of saw it at least there on the Sanhok game previous.
Yeah, it was Major Pride and Rad that dropped in Lipovka. So that kind of battle is started in a bad way for Rad. Losing one player start, losing another, and Major Pride picking off where they kind of left off and picking up where they left off. And in Sanhok, right, being aggressive, being proactive, and being a good start to League Week 2 for them. I wonder if it's more of a they're taking advantage of the format of the League Week. Not saying it's a bad thing, but they also need to transfer this kind of aggression and this kind of power to the second Super Weekend.
Okay, it got me thinking though. Seeing Major Pride, all 4 members in one vehicle, and is in a way unfortunate for my devilish little heart that we don't see teams in PMPL anymore running that mistake. But as we did check out the replay on how Rad Kato did get knocked there by Major, I almost wonder if we ever seen a game where a team and a driver a car in a PMPL or so, they drive and then they fall off somewhere and they eliminate all 4 players in one vehicle themselves.
Yeah, it's happened before.
Oh no.
It's happened, not often, but even once.
It's scary, but it's happened
like
once.
PMPL. No, but even once, it's too much. Like,
Yeah.
it's one of those things. It's one of those things universally that should never really happen. That should never like the basics of competitive PUBG Mobile. There's lots of
we can't forget about it, right?
The basic is never have 4 players rotating in one vehicle.
Yeah.
It's just, like it's like when you're younger. You're as a kid, you're kind of taught kind of fundamentals of life and what not to do.
Like,
one of those things, for example, is don't put your finger on the hot when it's on, right? Because it's hot, right? Yeah. Don't touch fire. Don't try and touch fire. That's having 4 players in one vehicle.
It didn't.
Is like out. Is like touching fire. Like it's just you just don't do it. Like
man, I used to when I was younger. I used to find out the hard way about the term heat when the Tom thumb and the little nursery rhyme. Well, I kind of put my thumb at the end into a pie, and least to know, I have not done that again ever. that was when you messed up.
Yeah, look, if you do it once, that's fine. If you hadn't done it a second time,
we did not put it again. Like, okay, we did not go there again. That rad was a dark and scary road.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Phase 1 starting to get closer towards the tail end, and teams are now going for the great migration from the eastern side in more towards the center part of this circle. NIGMA Galaxy still yet to disengage away from Pachinki, and that worries me, and I don't kind of get it. They've allowed NASR to get ahead of them. They've allowed Twisted Minds to get ahead of them. They've allowed Triple Esports to get ahead of them, and yeah, it's again, I'm not saying you need to play center of the circle, but if they even moved out of the city and up towards the kind of open area, whether it's the south hill or the kind of western hill of Pachinki, they'd be able to potentially pick a player or 2 off, manipulate the rotations, and that's a missed opportunity for NIGMA.
Oh no, Falcons in midair. The wings have been clipped away, and Major Pride gonna secure this elimination inside of blue. Never Alone trying to swim away for now. Waste as much time, of course, as allowing the rest of Falcons here to rotate safely away. But for unfortunate a rotation, still at least 3 eliminations so far for Major, and they are gonna have to be wary. However, is that zone did go down further down to the southwestern end, so I'm worried here. Are we going to see again later rotations being an issue? Is here SKYROCKET triple doing battle?
Yeah, it seems like they both want the same compound to the west of Ferry Pier Hill. 90th minute could get involved in a bit of a third party. That phase 2 shifting down towards the southwest will put a bit more of a priority focus on this compound that the two teams have locked and loaded. There's open fields to the northeast of them. You have the Quarry Hill, like I said, always a valuable hill if you want to hold on to in this kind of circle. Outside of that, the east of Ferry Pier Hillside and the compound to the north of it also incredibly strong, especially again when you look at the playing path and where a majority of the teams land and come from. It would be a great way of trying to find a couple of eliminations and pushing teams towards each other and giving you as a team more space to play with.
In 90th minute doing that greatly as well. Some of these other teams like VISTA as well to rotate through that South Island. Now they have done that, trying to go for the wider angle.
Oh, wow.
I actually think that it's a slightly later though rotation. You should have done it even earlier, because now you have this problem, right? Where Twisted Minds are on that bridge and VISTA don't really have that zone in hand. The zone stops on the bridge, so I worry for them.
But here's the thing, will Twisted Minds be expecting a team to come from
So
Military
the
Island?
surprise could be also a factor.
Interesting. We'll have to wait and see how that continues on, as SKYROCKET and Triple Esports still really trying to find that initial engagement.
Finally, they get it. That's the first elimination for them. It was a battle, a slow one indeed, but they trudged through, and now SKYROCKET down to only 2 players. Wanted might just bring them down to 1. Barely gets off the rooftop, but now Triple D, they're on the ground floor. They're hunting up onto the first. Salam pushed into the corner. They're trying to utilize the staircase, dip and dance around it, but Wanted gets caught. Salam trying to crawl to the next, but it's too late, too little, and Triple clean up the fight.
Very, very good for Triple Esports for their confidence building. Not so good for SKYROCKET. They've had 3 games in a row, and I think they've scored a total of 2 or 3 points within those 3 games. So out of the teams that didn't qualify for the first Super Weekend, they are looking much more worse for wear. 0 real identity coming into this week, and they once again don't really show identity within the first 3 games.
That was not how I was expecting the Twisted and the VISTA matchup to go, but I mean, fair play to Twisted Minds, finding one of VISTA off and in their lonesome. The rest of the 3 not even crossed the bridge yet, so trying maybe to delay that rotation as long as possible. But by VISTA, the member getting caught out maybe does slow Twisted Minds down, and understanding that there could be more of those players around. So not great from VISTA, playing a bit too far, but at least they scout out the teams there.
Great spread by NASR Esports. Are getting to the tail end of phase number 2. RA picked up 1 onto RGG. They pick up another. Vault goes down. It's just J9 and Unknown left alive, and they're going into the walls of pain as they try and find a position deeper into the circle. It does shift up north for phase 3, so tough for the teams that are a little bit heavier down south. And yeah, it's a interesting circle shift.
I think it's a really intriguing one in the fact that actually Quarry Hill, we talked about it in the first game, Imperium, that more eastern side hill that looks over Gatka, very much a threat that teams could pick up, and not just a threat in terms of position, but information, again, of course, where a zone like this is going to be very open, actually, I think, towards that main central belt. And of course, that road, it splits across the center, only going to add more problems on teams trying to cross and trying to remove as the zone continues to shift.
similar circle compared to what we saw in the first Erangel game, so it gives us a couple of bits to compare with, depending on obviously what the next circle shift is. The only one do suffer a knock at the hands of Cur12, and this is kind of aggression I like to see, although one gets knocked. Luffy is a little bit on his own. In comes the push, you're trying to find him. Free-fire shots coming through, and Luffy does eventually get knocked.
Problems here, but it's slightly too late. 1 second earlier, maybe Problems can help to turn that fight. But Cur12, excellent there to punish the only one. An overcommittal from Problems really should not have sent themselves in there, but they will lose now an extra player for it. In Cur12, not done just yet. Realizing here again that there could be players around them. So I like that they moved back into the shed. They repositioned. You could saw Mohammed, saw the smoke line behind. So excellent plays by Code overall.
And the fact that they went for a 3-1 split is so valuable because, one, they didn't commit the whole squad to that engagement. Having one in the back line is allowing them good, strong, suppressive support against a potential third party in the form of Falcons, and they cohesively pushed towards that shack. So really well played by Cur12.
And now they have themselves a position on that edge of zone. They're going to have to continue to shift forward. As Falcons doing so the same here. They are outside, so they're going to go for this one wider rotation down towards the south, but maybe to their detriment, because a lot of those teams, as we said, that hillside on the south end overlooks Gatka, already taken up by a majority of these teams, and Koi looking very highly contested.
And GEEKAY on top of that. Observation Tower Hill, a great spot in this kind of phase 3-2-2 split, extremely valuable. NASR in their own right have been tracking how they've been moving across these first couple of circles. I made note that they moved ahead of the likes of NIGMA Galaxy in phase 1. They took full advantage of it in phase 2. They've had good spreads, and bar the two players of RTG being close by, this is great play for NASR Esports.
Still Rare, unfortunately, the only one going to lose down. Another of their players is also, should I say, Rad. Is Rad will be continuing to move further down on that south side. The zone has gone up towards that northern end. And GEEKAY, you mentioned that Observatory Hill, major position for them. But RTG here also having a fight potentially on their hands. But for that hill also in the southeast, very powerful spot also.
NIGMA Galaxy, although they've been a little bit slower in the rotations, they have been able to continue to stay out of trouble on this southern area of the map and now find themselves on the south edge of the circle. Twisted Minds are behind them, but a little bit further back as NASR, like I said, that compound that was so good for POWR Esports in the first game might come back to haunt NIGMA Galaxy once again.
NIGMA losing one. They're going back. Here is freaking Lord going in for the push. Hamodi won't be able to find a revive, but we need to find a third player in. Freak blowing up at the door. In RTG, they will lose at least one for now, but Lord punish. They'll sacrifice their teammate for the extra one. And J9 on the back end gets it. In second time unlucky for NIGMA. A disaster here in this compound is going to haunt them in their dreams tonight, Imperium.
Look, I want to have so much more to say. I think NIGMA Galaxy rotated a little bit blindly and around the edge of the hillside, and when one got knocked, kind of turning around was probably a bad idea because they kind of went in around the edge of that hill quite blindly. I appreciate the commitment and great defense by RTG with the pre-nades here, the pre-nades there, and having one each when they were down to two players in separate buildings was also extremely valuable.
Rod as well, running as well as Twisted Minds, looking for a final one here. Desha, so low indeed, but I don't think they're going to get away. They go from one warehouse to the next. Has the hillside there. Desha's trying, but the blue zone's going to clean them up. Final tick, and it will be at least the end of Twisted Minds not getting that elimination point. So smart from Rod to actually finish themselves off to the blue.
Don't know exactly what happened to Major Pride. They went down, though, as the circle shifting up north in the next phase does put a lot of pressure off YALLA, who are the only team up around that northern side. It is quite flat terrain and around a kind of land outside of Gatka and Chopsticks, so it's still quite risky for YALLA Esports. Not the highest amount of security.
Falcons trying to dance around the wall as well as Triple. Looking for the push. 1 for 1 for now. Falcons very low on Damar here, as Yusuf won't even be able to help. It's actually Kurt 12. Hassan, it punishes him out of third party. Kurt 12 there to finish him away. In Triple, Uaz barely keeping themselves alive. Now, you asked also Major Pride where they fell to. That was more of that western side. Imperium R8 now up to 5 eliminations themselves on that end of the map. They too making a big game where they need to have these big games.
Twits of Minds playing around the Valley Road side. That splits. It did split the circle earlier on. And Kurt 12 go for the push once again on the triple.
And Kurt 12 just going to completely finish him off. The patience to not be caught by Falcons, the third-party Falcons, to now take down the end at Triple are on such a monumental game for themselves in this tournament to get the points. But Twisted also in their own battle versus 90 who have control of the hill. They have control of the players of Twisted. The nades were there. Now comes the spray. Ragnarok, Choto in the back end. And it's Choto to finish it off. And 90th have looked so dominant when they're on form, Imperium. When they look good, they look darn good. Zamart just going to walk in onto the net.
Great spread by 90th minute. Great cover. It was always going to be difficult by Twist Minds as they pushed in on towards that valley in the roadside. It's quite open. But Lane, the amount of smokes they did, just actually, if anything, made it too predictable and it covered off the vision on the potential push into 90th minute. And yeah, it haunted them in a big way. We are down to 7 teams. Look at R8. The spread they have on that kind of western side, not in the circle, but still find the entry point in. Yalla might be looking to stop them, yet to really make it in themselves.
Yeah, they're going for it. A big push in, and they're gonna suffer the knocks for it. Life will also drop down, and it's a 2 just what are they doing? I mean, they stop. I understand why the Feek was smoking, but you stop there also. You are just a dead man walking, and unfortunately, they get punished by R8, now up to 6.
Why do they have 2 people in that buggy, right? Why not just send one? If you're trying to scout around and look for a position, look for something, look for opponents, just have 1 player there. There's no need to have 2 in that buggy. I don't know what happened with Yalla. Now they're down to 2 players. They might be able to get the revive off onto 1. That would leave them back up as a 3. And could certainly help them coming into the very late stages.
Oh, God. Look at the powerful position that GEEKAY have here. I mean, it is disgusting. This zone on the edge for them as well as R8. But the power they have over these players below them and the power they have over the players on the flats is just so huge. And finally, we're seeing that punishment on behind is 90th stepping up here potentially for the fight.
If 90th are going to win this, they need to push in with confidence. It's a tough task. GEEKAY, they do have to wait, but they also in their own right can't allow 90th minute to push and bully them around heading into the entry point of the sniper tower. The sniper tower could end up going against GEEKAY. It's tough to deal with as Satan gets knocked by NASR in the back end.
And it's nice utility used by 90th for trying to search out GEEKAY. NASR is going to help to find one, and now it's a weakened form of the team. GEEKAY stepping out, knowing they have to do something, but Ragnar immediately into all the players. They get at least Amon. They find now Tam. Choto's the only one remaining. But here comes the second. They're looking to turn it. GEEKAY, they find all 4 of them, and 90th all funneled to their deaths.
Ragnar clutches up once again. The man that won the 3 OOREDOO Thunder in the game back in the Super Weekend once again strikes. This time the victims being 90th minute. But NASR now, Highland Wolf looking to third party on towards the golden goose of the sniper tower. The circle did center up. They're outside it. NASR need to take full advantage.
But GEEKAY, they've reformed back down again from that fight. So they have now to set up a little bit. They have the smoke wall built. But that was a lot of utility used on a slow engagement between GEEKAY and 90th. So they are going to be lower. They are going to be less. And also, don't forget that R8 here are still a formidable team inside of that zone as well.
Current 12, they push YALLA, they took them out. They're up to 10 elimination points. Double digits, baby. Top 4 guaranteed 18 points in this third game of the day.
It is huge for Curd 12, but they have the trickiest stretch to cross now as Rico, or RH, should I say, all over themselves is Hazem. Trying now to find that extra flank. They're trying to split here, Curd 12, to get themselves a maximum opportunity in onto that next shift. NASR as well, trying to do the same, but Batika has been soloed out by Gaive, as they will be punished though, trying to finish off the vehicle and gets caught. But Batika just walks in onto the fire. I'm not sure if they wanted that. That was hidden in the smoke, but a major mistake from them is now NASR will lose a player, and so do Kurt.
It's difficult for Kurd because they're the only one that's on towards that northwestern side, but they're in the flatlands, and GEEKAY gonna push NASR.
GEEKAY finding the 10th elimination for himself. Can't finish off the extra one, so searching for it. Will get Ali with the drop down. The patience to be able to wait for that, but hope still will fall regardless. Miracle will find the blow up onto the extra player. Alright though, still on the end Imperium of this zone. They're down to 2 players, but they've been patiently waiting. Is it going to work out for them, or can GEEKAY still feel it?
All down to how the circle shift and it centers up. How many vehicles do each of the teams have? What can you do? Curd 12 lose a player. Madlol is knocked. Can Hazem get the revive?
The vehicle's being exploded. It's going into smoke. They have to be careful. It's alright. Now, on the edge still. Fire back. Peek back down. They've not got the vehicle though to navigate. They have it as at least a fantastic blockade. But they are completely pinned. In that zone, it's 15 seconds before they have to force their hand.
The thing is, Highland, the first team to move most likely will be the first team to go down. That's a difficulty. That's a challenge when it comes to timing moving into this circle.
GEEKAY as well, very much on the edge. That fortunate police car also going to be smoked up, so we have to go the long way round. I will be the first to move. They're trying to make the shots count. Curd 12 will be the first to fall, surely here. Hazem slowly making their way through. No, it's R8 to get the 4th position. And it's 3rd, at least, for Curd, as GEEKAY making their run down without R8 there to stop them. A miracle. He's been here the entire time. That 3rd party potentially could stay them out.
Don't deny what the man with the iron bullet Hazem can do as a solo. He's not to be messed with, Highland Wolf. He's one of 3 teams left. 2v1v1.
NASR, Miracle, still coming in on the edge of the zone, snaking their way. GEEKAY maybe have an eye in, send a nade over. Miracle, that's going to catch him. Beautiful stuff through from GEEKAY. Now up to 14 eliminations, but we have to make it 15 if they want this chicken dinner. They have to get to flat 30. His arm also up to 11, sends out the smoke, continuing to move further forward, but GEEKAY, they know exactly where they are. One hit indicator will allow them to figure out a position, and Hazem will be dropped.
2 GEEKAY players are together, so one molly, one perfect throwable could be the end of GEEKAY.
Oh, but they found him, Imperium, GEEKAY. They do take that flat 30. They take the 15 eliminations. They take the 15 chicken dinner winner points in a big game again for this team, who did underperform in on that first game. They don't, I believe, have a game still to play towards the end of today. So getting those extra points, settling them in strong for that day 2 of the league stage.
Yeah, just kind of business as usual for GEEKAY. There was definitely a clutch moment required. That's okay. And I want to kind of explain that it's okay because the best teams are able to get past those clutch moments. They're able to make the best of those clutch moments, right? I'd like to see GEEKAY not need to pull off as many. However, Ragnar is just... he's such a wonderful talent, and yeah, once again struck in such a positive way for his team. Fully deserved 30 points. They executed that late game wonderfully against the likes of R8 a NASR and Cur 12, and they had every single angle tracked from that kind of higher ground.
GEEKAY getting, so we say, that top position, but Cur 12 also the 11 eliminations. I think also props again to those teams who are trying to make above that average mark, really, to get into the Super Weekend. YALLA 90th minute all there. But as we move down towards triple, unfortunately getting called out, I think, by what was a fantastic Cur 12 performance. And also, I believe FALCONS later on those standings too, who really were dialed down by Kurd, and it just seemed like Kurd had their number.
Cur 12 bodied, man. They absolutely bodied that game. That's kind of Cur 12 that I saw when I cast them in the previous event that they won before PMPL Arabian. It's nice to see them kind of find their voice, find their feel, and find their momentum, and I hope they continue in a good way. It's been good progression across the first 3 games today. 6 points in game 1, 4 points in game 2. Of course, the 23 points in game 3. Does it become more challenging for the likes of VISTA Gaming and SKYROCKET Esports? Specifically, those 2 teams are not having a good start to League Week 2.
Yeah, and it's really, I think, hurtful for them, particularly as we say again, that they do have to make that second Super Weekend if they want to stand that chance. So I think particularly for SKYROCKET, missing out as well in game number 5, whereas Vista still have that opportunity to keep in mind, it's going to be even more detrimental for SKYROCKET, who need now a good performance in our next Sanhok game. Otherwise, all of those points need to be made tomorrow, and that is not the position they want to be in.
You also consider the fact that with tomorrow's games, they're also not going to be playing that final game. So if they don't pick up the points, if they don't create that element of a cushion for the teams below them, there's a higher chance they're not going to make it in. And that would definitely spell trouble for them. I would, right now, as of right now, both Vista and SKYROCKET, I could easily see them not making it in. Do I want to be proven wrong? Yes. Please. Vista, SKYROCKETs, prove me wrong. Genuinely prove me wrong. I will gladly eat my words if one or both of you make it into the Super Weekend. So prove me wrong.
Look, they've got one more game here, at least on Sanhok, to do it, as we'll be heading through to our highlights in a short break before we go back into the Rumble in the Jungle.
Take you back, spitting facts, you gotta live with that. Who got it? Who want it? No problem. We mob it. Who got it? Who want it? No problem. We mob it. take you back. Spitting facts, you gotta live with that. Who got it? Who won it? No problem. We mobbing. In the city, plenty havoc causing. Do or die, it's either all or nothing. Best believe I'm leaving out with something. Anytime I got the crowd jumping. Throwing rage, you know they fist pumping. I'm the king of dysfunction. What would you do if you had my life? Work like me, had those stripes. Would you go hard just to have that ice? Lot of dudes still trying to have that price. In the yo, cooking about to add that spice. Nowadays, dudes never had that fight. When the first boom, better burst your pipes, pipes.
Welcome back, everyone, here to the PUBG Mobile Pro League Arabia full season, the first day of the second Super Weekend. If you're just joining us, my name's Highland Wolf and Imperium beside me for the remaining 2 games we're going to be casting today. But it's not just us in our beautiful faces, it's the Oppo Reno down below as well, with upgraded performance and upgraded fun. Celebrate your winning spirit with the brand new Oppo Reno 7 Pro 5G, the designated smartphones for PUBG Mobile Middle East and Africa Esports 2022. Imperium, we've just had Erangel, we've now got Sanhok here, baby.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
So like, was that too hype? Was that too hype?
Just caught me off guard. Caught me off guard.
But I'll tell you what's not going to catch these players off guard, though, is the Stalker, the king of the jungle itself, the Grizzly Bear, and his card collection. Join the card collection, draw and win outfits. There's a chance to get all the pieces of an item in one go. Imperium, that still looks the most formidable. I mean, Sanhok, it looks scary, okay, but that bear, he's staring at me with those angry eyebrows.
Did you know that despite the weight of a bear, the animals can actually cover short distances at a speed of up to 50 kilometers an hour? So they're fast, boy. they are fast animals. So you don't want to mess with them when you're close by.
So, like, don't poke them with a stick when I see one.
Don't poke the bear. Don't poke the bear, man.
I can't run away.
Don't poke the bear unless you're Usain Bolt and can.
That's fair. Maybe.
You know?
I feel like the bear still gives him a run for his money. Like, scary stuff. A scary speeds we're reaching.
Well, these for short distance, you know.
Oh, yeah. I mean, distance, fair enough. But as we get away from that conversation, we're going back into Sanhok, which is, as we say, the jungle itself, Imperium. It's only a 4K by 4K, in the words of Professor Tarzan, as all of these teams, they can go anywhere they like.
Once again, another group going out, another group coming in for this game. Number 4, it is going to be groups A, C, D, and E. So there is no 90th minute, no GEEKAY Esports, no NIGMA Galaxy, and no RAD. And we do reintroduce 4K, CONQUEROR, OOREDOO Thunders, and POWR Esports. The playing path, not really anything to talk about too much. Hoping that phase 1 is once again similar to the first game in terms of prioritizing. The mainland teams will still want to be aware, no matter where it goes, that you want to gain control early on. It is not too bad, majority mainland. Still a decent chunk of the Northwest and Southwest Islands in play.
You know, I've never asked you, I believe, before, at least for a while, okay? Where would you go, okay? I'm the player, you're the coach, okay, Imperium? Where would you say is, like, the best kind of position to go here, looking at these teams, at least now, for me as a player and my team to move?
What kind of play style do you have?
Oh, I'm very passive, okay? I'm like NIGMA style, like...
Then drop somewhere along the lines of Tap Mock Cow.
Okay.
And it gives you a lot more entry points to play a little bit more passively into the edge of the circles. Yeah, okay, you do need to be aware of around the Paradise Resort, but again, you got a lot of entry points, and through knowledge and preparation, you're much better set up as a player to play from that direction. And it's within the mainland.
But if I actually had skill, let's say I actually was good at the game, and like you maybe, because I'm certainly not, where would we go? Are we talking like boot camp style? Because, I mean, you know me, I'm like a man of action, okay? I need I need to feel like the sweat on my forehead of like needing to get those shots and needing to make those plays.
No, not boot camp at all.
Oh, okay.
Because boot camp is
Is that too risky? Too much? Too much?
No. Honestly, like boot camp definitely would be a good idea. I think Painan is a personal favorite of mine.
I've not seen Painan for ages in that fight.
And again, I think it's kind of like Cow Tap Mock, but a little bit spicier, right? You're still able to play really nicely through either the mainland, southwest island,
oh my days,
northwest island. But it can be a bit more aggressive, as Falcons have been aggressive onto Major Pride.
That was probably the fastest dive in with a motorbike. I thought he was going to fly through the window in the opposite end there when PME was going so fast.
Hey, look, Falcons push. Falcons want eliminations. Falcons want points. They're going to take points. I like this from Falcons there. They're a little bit like Cur 12 at the moment. They know what they want. They know what they want to grab. And by God, are they taking it? And especially if it's weak as Sanhok. And so far, they're looking good in this map. I know it's only like a game and a tiny bit, but they are looking pretty confident at least. That to me spells a guaranteed Super Weekend qualification for Falcon.
And we want that from Falcons. We want to see that confidence. And we've not really seen that, I think, from SKYROCKET, VISTA to our teams here on the screen. And I, again, just want to repeat that SKYROCKET, they look like, honestly, one of the teams that I was so impressed by the start of the tournament. I thought this is a team just like GEEKAY, just like Major Pride, who are going to come in and storm and upset these favorite organizations coming through this next season. It just hasn't been that way for them after that first day.
And that's okay. Sometimes that can be the case. It's all about where you go from there. It's all about how you react as a team, as a camp, right? Because there's only so many guarantees in life, and the biggest guarantee is how you control yourself, how you control your own turnaround. The best teams will always be able to do that. The teams that kind of make excuses or blame this or blame that, rather than just going, okay, well, either one, we weren't good enough, or two, we didn't prepare enough, or three, we just didn't have the preparation in mind to deal with it. But if you're constantly blaming circle shifts, if you're constantly blaming this, that, and the other, you're going to hit that brick wall. So,
right,
doesn't worry about how you start, all about how you finish.
And exactly, it's, if you say you're stuck and you believe that you're stuck, maybe it's you that is stuck. Maybe you need to say, well, how do I become unstuck? What are the solutions I can look at to improve? Because you can move on from there. You just have to figure out the reasons how. And unfortunately, Triple, they still not realize how to rotate through Conqueror here and Sanhok, and they get punished. Two of them fall, but at least one back.
Just a little bit off topic. I know that Triple Esports do get one back. But going back onto what you said, it's a little bit off topic, but I would fully recommend players look into. There's a specific book that I certainly would recommend, but would look into ways to garner your own level of confidence. So if you constantly tell yourself, let's say once a day, that you're going to achieve something, you're automatically planting seeds into your head that you're going to achieve it. Even though that thing might require a lot of mechanical ability, because a lot of this game and a lot of competitiveness around sports, traditional sports or esports, or any industry involves confidence and your mentality. If you tell yourself something once a day, like I'm going to be PMGC champion, you're genuinely much more likely to have that, have that result than if you don't say it to yourself. So I would fully recommend teams that if you say to yourself, I'm going to win PMPL Arabia, I'm going to win PMPL Arabia, I'm going to win PMPL Arabia. You might not do it today, you might not do it tomorrow, but I tell you what, you're more likely going to do it the next day or the next day compared to teams that don't say it to themselves.
Exactly. And I think belief in the psychological aspect of PUBG is so crucial. And I think some teams on, maybe not PMPL, but certainly lower stages and teams looking to get into future PMPLs as well, certainly should keep note of in having that positive mindset, having that confidence to be able to overplay, as we say. We always want to see teams overplay. We always want to see teams push to their limits rather than be not confident enough, rather than not have the belief in themselves enough to actually make those plays in the first place. Because if you have at least the experimental ability to try, then at least you're going to know what's good, what's not good, and move on from there.
Exactly. Let's get back to the game, though, as we see teams start to rotate a little bit deeper into this Phase 1 circle. South of Bootcamp, you have YALLA, GEEKAY not in this game, so they have Bootcamp all to themselves. Twisted Minds have a bit of a 2-1-1 split between North Painan Hill, the compound, to the northeast of Painan, and Ragnarok is still inside Painan. So an interesting split. NASR in their own right have a great valuable position to the compound west of Quarry. You have RTG on the high ground to the northwest of Quarry, and SKYROCKET's in the trifecta compound. A lot of teams in some pretty decent positions towards this early game.
Very central positions, actually, as well. And
yeah,
you look towards those positions, such as the L compound into Bootcamp Hill, going to be fairly contested. Now, VISTA, SKYROCKET were looking for that location. Yeah, they've actually moved out of Bootcamp, which has been a change so far in the tournament, to quickly make that move on into the hill. It used to be actually a way that YALLA in previous seasons, actually in the full season of 2021, they used to do this, where they send 2 players over towards that more eastern side. They scout with 2 back onto the Bootcamp Hill, and actually is a bit of a concerning rotation from me, because this is also something that, on the other hand, a lot of teams got used to, and they used to be able to punish and actually manipulate YALLA for.
Because if you look at Sanji, he's so deep down the hill that if he gets knocked, his teammate that's higher up is far less likely going to be able to support him. And if he gets knocked, his 2 teammates are in no way able to support him. So indeed, it is a pretty risky split from YALLA early on in this game. We are about to see this Phase 2 shift come through. So it does shift up towards the northwest. Quite challenging for teams that did kind of prioritize heavily in towards the center of Phase 1, but still quite a bit of adaptability possible. You could head back into the blue. You still got to be considerate of teams around the Samni area. Still a couple of exit points for teams.
And these teams possibly actually also going to skirt around Bootcamp. Now, maybe assuming that teams already going to be in that location again. Of course, they don't know that location is currently free for the pickings, but it is concerning that that is the central point of this Phase 2. It's still a very undecided Phase 2 as well, and we've seen this in the past too, Imperium, where teams very much are focused in this season around Bootcamp. They focus around that side, and then it shifts so heavily onto those islands on the more westerly isles that aren't maybe looked at as much.
So you can see the overall standings currently scrolling at the top of your screen, going from left to right. It kind of starts in the top 4, then goes in next 4. See, at the moment, the bottom 4 teams are Rad, SKYROCKET, Esports, and surprisingly, Twisted Minds. Now, Twisted Minds are playing these final 2 games. However, 3 points in 2 games isn't really the kind of result we expect for the team, who very closely at the top of the standings during the first Super Weekend.
Right, and I think on the other hand of that, I'm not too concerned about Twisted Minds not making it into the Super Weekend. On one hand, it's still going to suck, right? And they're going to need to get back into the third Super Weekend. But they've already built themselves that cushion on such a great performance in the first Super Weekend, where if they do have a bad week, and we've seen even the best of teams have a bad week and not make it, they're not going to worry too much, because they've already done the previous work. They're going to worry, right? Week 3, like, it's going to look scary, but at least it don't have to look like worry as much as the only one.
2 factors, and one bigger than the other. The smaller factor is the prize money, right? You're losing out on the potential of a few grand from chicken dinners.
Exactly.
More importantly, and this is pure speculation, by the way.
Okay.
More importantly, potential PMGC points.
Fair enough.
Again, speculation, but if it's the case, the same as last year, you're missing out on crucial PMPL points.
Yeah, crucially, you actually point that out as well, right? Because it's missing out on that potential of that extra slot that could be needed by your team to get in if you don't have maybe as much of a good a final as you were looking for. In our rate here as well, trying to navigate from, of course, Paradise Resort once more. It seems tricky enough. Once again, they've lost prestige. Now, the fight is happening so far between these teams, so they're not going to have to worry about full knocks, but it is going to delay the rotations. And for teams like R8 here, who have more of those squads rotating behind them, it's definitely a lot scarier for them when you have squads still like CONQUEROR, still like FALCONS to rotate.
It's okay once you get the revive. I don't like where Bandar is. However, I understand that if the next circle, once again, kind of goes northeast, the full squad can't commit to there.
Exactly.
So I understand him being where he is at the moment. Next circle, very close to popping up. SKYROCKET's in the trifecta compound. I really appreciate that. YALLA have joined back up as a full squad, and it's shifting down towards the southwest. The worst kind of shift any of these teams could have asked for, because you have absolutely no idea where this game is going to end, which island, which part. It's so difficult.
I mean, for me, I don't know where it's going to go. I will probably try to look towards, having your teams be in a position to look to go towards those two islands. Now, the bridges, as a result, are going to be those hotspots, I think, by these teams. Also, I think, actually, Bootcamp Hill, still very powerful a position, because the setup that you get from the information coming down into those bridges, still going to be very much viable. Now, YALLA, I'm curious to see if they're going to hold on to that as much. They seem to have moved further away from that location, and actually allowing potentially other teams like R8, like also really Rads to move in as well. Are that going to be the case? I'm not sure.
Well, honestly, it doesn't matter where you are in the map, inside the circle, outside the circle. Every single team needs to prioritize eliminations, needs to prioritize engagements. Because, again, you don't know where the circle's going to end, and on one shift you could have the circle, on the next shift you could not, and if you're not aggressive enough, and if you don't pick up the opportunities to get eliminations, you wasted valuable elimination points. And if you go down, let's say in 14th, 15th, that's a waste of a game.
Yeah, keep in mind only 4 players in this game have actually fallen out of it. There's still all 16 teams. There's still 60 players remaining in the Phase 3, closing now into 4. Expecting that to change quite swiftly as we do become into Phase number 4 itself. Around then, the players should really be cut about in half. But it is about, as you say, trying to find these opportunities. I think there's more opportunity for those on the eastern flanking side. All of those teams still come into the zone. Very much going to be a battle to get there.
Yeah, definitely. Falcon do lose a player in the form of Powerful. That's a confirmation coming through on the eastern part of the map. Outside the circle, CONQUEROR rocking around this area as well. You have Triple Esports, you have RTG, you have the Only One. That's a cluster of 5 teams alone, right? Never mind R8, who are in the edge of the circle, waiting, hearing all those shots fire out. And NASR inside that compound down more towards the southeastern edge of the circle.
And I actually like what some of these teams far out are doing. So OOREDOO, they sent one player actually preemptively before even the shift to boot camp on the edge.
Yeah,
whereas all those other players still on the northern end. So it very much where this zone now goes, it's either going to massively help OOREDOO, or they're going to be in a very deep hole.
They actually sent 2. They have a 2-2 split.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so it's some more. Yeah.
So I definitely like how you observed that. I also observed that K12 doing kind of what I suggested and engaged onto major fight, even outside the circle into the blue, and was rewarded with eliminations and a squad wipe.
In that zone, that's a disgusting zone, Imperium, quite frankly. That's the majority of the water inside there. The L compound, really the only thing that matters in terms of trying to take control of this zone. SKYROCKET, they're holding it for now. Personally, I probably wouldn't want to hold it. I would actually try to hold further back, maybe towards the edge of the zone, move away, because SKYROCKET, they're going to find themselves very quickly. But that is a very hotly contested location, as Major Pride also in that replay falling down to the blue and those shots.
Yeah, they're certainly going to be the focus, SKYROCKET, so they need to start to get proactive. They need to start to get defensive, and the best way of getting defensive in Sanhok, for the most part, especially when you have the circle, is to get aggressive. RTG on the other side in towards the eastern side, looking to take shots onto the Only One, and they connect quite nicely.
At least team is around them trying to find their own fights. Here is YALLA closing in. You also have Cur12 closing in behind him, and it's beginning to soften or tighten that grip, should I say. Here is really softening the blow for SKYROCKET by this fight happening elsewhere, though. The only one finding a little bit of a knock there, pushing back also R8, who will be the next to fall.
I'm a little bit surprised that OOREDOO Thunders didn't send the 2 players back over the river to join up with the rest of the team on that northwest island. I think it would have been a better position to place the full squad and then enter towards the hills and that warehouse. That's even though it's slightly in the circle, but still full squad in the circle kind of makes sense.
And it gets you away from the chaos, right? That is going to be on that main bridge. In OOREDOO, if they can keep all 4 players alive, come towards the end of the game as well, then they have the numbers advantage. Because I bet my hat, Imperium, if I had a hat, that these teams will not be all full squads coming into that end game.
RGG being put under pressure, but they are at least kind of trading a little bit with the only one slowing them down. More importantly, as Vault gets ahead of the Blue Zone. POWR Esports in their own right, trying to rock through Boomcap in a bit of a crazy rotation. Oh, it's on vehicle, so I can low-key appreciate it. 2 players are outside the vehicle, Kante and another one inside the bug game, Falcon Esports. It's death, destruction. It's going to be Blue Zone has faced 5 hits, and we're going to lose a lot of players.
A lot of them all falling into the blue on that more kind of eastern side. You can see that elimination feed hasn't stopped moving. Imperium, still new names every second. And it's, I believe, they're the only one who might be that next team to fall. OOREDOO, though, they had that split. They get punished for it. Did not even realize that aggressive rotation of POWR moving forward. And they get their rewards here. 3 eliminations now for POWR. VISTA will be the next ones to fall, though, out of the game entirely.
Like, and that's the difference, right? OOREDOO Thunder not up as a full squad together. POWR, it might have been a crazy rotation, but guess what, Highland? They did it as a full squad. And that meant that they had the body power, they had the aggression, they had the push. It doesn't mean they're out of the water just yet.
No, they still got that bridge to cross, and it's the L compound still in control here by SKYROCKET. YALLA actually have a nice position for themselves as well. You have to keep in mind, on that hillside as well. But 4K, they're moving in. I mean, it's dicey, to be fair. I mean, they're now getting under fire by Twisted Minds. They reverse back out of there. They're gonna still keep golden on the back end, but the only one on that more eastern flank finally will fall, succumb to the zone, is Twisted Minds, still controlling this bridge, and it is still them to come in.
Are they really controlling the bridge? I don't think so. They're in a scary spot because they're exposed by YALLA on towards the deeper side of the circle. They're somewhat exposed by 4K. This isn't good for Twisted Minds. Like I said, look at them. They're in the middle. Nowhere to go. Nothing to do. It's just death and destruction. And look, it's a product of a unfortunate circle shift that is still split in between 2 lands of Sanhok.
Like, they might have had the bridge, but move away from it. Then they find out that they had really no position or no business at all. That's a mega shift, though, towards YALLA. In Imperium, YALLA could not have asked for a better game here. They have a compound to themselves. Only realistically, POWR can fully contest here, YALLA, for that victory.
Yeah, and I think YALLA need to commit to kind of 3-1 in one direction. It's going to be easier said than done. POWR are pushing in as quick as they can. They are not wasting any time at all, but they got to be careful. Vankit is a little bit exposed. The Molly's the nades come in.
And Vankit trying to bait out the shots, but it's a quarter here that YALLA have. They're trying to send life in, and Boompa trying to buy time. But is it enough here as they've been split up? Life now will be caught out. Saif and Sanji are there, but it's too little too late. The front line is exhausted. In POWR have already claimed themselves a building. Now the nade gets sent through, but gets caught. Sanji crossing over. That'll be the extra shots, bringing it down on Saif. And POWR, they will not slow down. They still continue to push Saif down to a sliver as they try to find the floor shots, but it's not enough. Vankit has their number, and YALLA wiped.
I'm going to have so much to say about engagement once this game is over, but we need to think about the fact that there's still 6 teams. SKYROCKET, Esports trying to make it across the river. RTG, the final player on top of the ridge side, catches Van Kid off guard.
And that's crucial for these other squads to come in Imperium because they need Power weakened. Power, they had a strong engagement onto Yalla, but Volt will reduce that effect. And now as SKYROCKET tried to cross, they also lost a player. Keep in mind, even the fishies here of OOREDOO still trying to keep them alive. So crucial a match this is, so for all of these teams, because there's still the points up for grabs. This is the last game for some of these squads.
4K have 2 players left. One's healing in the blue. The other is looking to try and make an entry point into the blue.
Oh.
K12, by the way, they have 1 player left healing in the blue.
And K12 survived now to 4th position. That was a fantastic grenade by Power. Bounces off the rock. Didn't even see it coming for SKYROCKET. Kante finds a double piece. Is there 4K? Still alive, down into 3rd, and it will be RTG to fall before them. Anaconda going to be the next one. Kante finding him inside the blue. Anaconda going low. Anaconda will fall away, and it's going to be another big game, but at least Golden strikes one back onto Kante, but it's all to be said to be done. It's Power's victory. 13 eliminations for themselves. There comes the chicken dinner as you'll fall the rest to the blue. I'm just curious, did Courage survive there to that 2nd position, or did 4K get that 2nd?
Courage 12, as far as I know, survived to grab themselves 2nd place. But to me, man, this is all about Power Esports. They started today with the chicken dinner. They grabbed their 2nd of the day in Game 4. And that engagement onto YALLA Esports is absolutely incredible. I don't think I've seen a better engagement in quite a while. 150%. The way they pushed in, they pre-fired, they pre-naded, they pre-mollied. They kind of knew where the YALLA players were, but they had so much confidence on that push. They gave YALLA absolutely no room to respond, no time to respond. It was pitch perfect. It's a kind of engagement that I could watch over and over and over again. I cannot speak any more highly of it.
It's honestly kind of the engagement that I would have expected for a PMGC team, actually. It was so perfectively done, and even when YALLA tried to fight back, Power actually held back for a second or two. They allowed the exhaustion of the utility by YALLA to go aside before they re-engaged the fight, and to use the side of the windows to pincer actually the extra member that Saif was coming to support initially was so perfect in the acknowledgement that they read YALLA almost like a book, you could argue. YALLA, just everything they did, Power had an answer to, and secures themselves there as a result, those 28 points and that chicken dinner position. Cur 12, though, was also a big game for them, and SKYROCKET arguably at least picking up those 8 points.
Man, Cur 12 impressed me, right? Because they pulled a great move early on when they got the engagement onto Major Pride. Yeah, okay, Major Pride were of course driving into the edge of the circle, but again, Cur 12 had their wits about them. They knew that they needed to cover their backs, whether it's players on foot or players on vehicle, and they made that count. But then having that plan B of sending as many players into the circle as they could and trying to do something, and one healing in the blue was always going to be the best of both worlds, and it got them a 2nd place in the game and a hell of a decent amount of points. Pretty much locked in their spot in the 2nd Super Weekend. I might add, one team on the opposite end that hasn't quite done it and still has more to do, much more to do. Highland Wolf is Twisted Minds. It's 5 points in this game, which isn't the worst, but it's by no means the best.
Look, it's a disaster, I think, of a day for Twisted. They're going to have to come back with something big. They've still got one more chance to go, so we're going to head to a break before our final Erangel match, and we're going to leave you again with the best Oppo moments of that Sanhok Game 2. Welcome back, everyone, to the final game here in the first day, second week of the PMPL Arabia full split. Myself, Hannah Wolf, and Imperium alongside us also is the Oppo Reno 7 with upgraded performance and upgraded fun. Celebrate your winning spirit with the brand new Oppo Reno 7 Pro 5G, the designated smartphones for PUBG Mobile Middle East and Africa Esports 2022. Is not just though the Oppo here, it is also the beautiful in-game rewards that you too can earn with the Grizzly Bear card collection. Imperium. Join the card collection draw and win outfits. There's a chance to get all of those pieces of an item in just one go.
What to say?
Where's the bear joke? I want to see it. What are the facts? We've got facts so far. Is there a joke, Kai?
Oh, no time for facts.
No time. We're going speedy, boys. We're ready for also our overall rankings. That's why, I mean, maybe can we say like a fact?
No,
here?
we need to start at the overall standings because POWR Esports 2 chicken dinners, 3 games, 42 elimination points, 36 placement points, 78 in total. POWR Esports, take my heart, take my soul, take everything. Because, man, like, I know, I'm just on the POWR Esport high train. Look, it's such a good day for them so far.
I'll tell you the facts. They've been dominating 20-plus elimination. Their 15 eliminations or so in that last game. They've looked like an entirely different team to the rest of them. Cur12, of course, they're in that second position. GEEKAY having a good game or so here, also coming up there alongside Major with FALCONS slightly behind. But as we do take a look at that second page, Imperium, that's where it all matters for these teams.
It does, and 90th minute SKYROCKET Esports, CONQUEROR, and NASR just about into the mix, but it's very close, only 7 points dividing 9th and 16th. Let's move on to the final page to kind of get a much stronger idea. At the moment, who are the final 4 teams in this current stage? Triple, Twisted Minds, Rad, VISTA Gaming, Highland.
Yeah, all of those 4 teams, so at least still to play one more game as we're going to be jumping quickly in onto our 5th game very shortly here. Imperium is down to this final game to at least give themselves a good result now, because it's going to be Group E playing. Unfortunately for SKYROCKET, they aren't going to be playing this game alongside the rest of Group A, which I believe was R8, also Cur12, and I believe GEEKAY also was the other one.
Yeah, like, that's the thing. SKYROCKET are just in a lot of trouble being the only team realistically in the bottom 8 minimum, in the bottom 10 actually, that have played all 4 games. So the teams below them can certainly do a lot of damage and send SKYROCKET into the bottom 4 coming into day 2. The playing path on this final game is not too bad. It's a little bit up north, but it is, of course, diagonal, going from the west over towards the northeast, and teams, for the most part, will generally be able to get to where they want to.
It's a kind playing path to close us off. Yet I'm not subdued to the fact that it's going to be a kind zone. We did just see a very hectic Sanhok game, so at least this is a slightly tamer first phase. It's actually, I believe, a phase of 1 shift that we've already seen today. If not today, very much before in the tournament.
Extremely familiar for these teams. It's a little bit more centralized compared to the previous couple of games, so that will at least open the door for more variable positions to lock down. The center at the moment is Pachinki. Now, teams like to prioritize center, so if we're going off that in this phase 1, I expect a lot of Pachinki Hill between the south and southwest of it, Potato Hill to have a couple of teams around that area. And if we're drifting a little bit more away from the center, I suppose, in around where Anas or Twisted Minds is at the moment, possibly Watertown and the compound to the west of Headshot Hills could be quite lockable for these teams.
Yeah, as well, when we're looking, I think, into some of these teams, crucial, I think, for some of them to get on board. I think for OOREDOO also, we haven't really talked about them too much today, but we also haven't really seen too much of OOREDOO performing spectacularly as I think we thought they could do, because OOREDOO for a team have looked very strong, at least in the first league, but then also even in the Super Weekend, they didn't have a bad performance. OOREDOO still got those points.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm not too worried about OOREDOO.
Oh,
overall. I'm really not worried too much about them. I'm worried about VISTA Gaming though. 4 points in 3 games. Right now they're in around right now they're in around the South Georgia area, which I do appreciate, because Major Pride and R8 are not playing in this game. The complete George Paul area is free. So them dropping towards South Georgia, not only because of the plane path, because of that open area available, is quite adaptable, and I'm hoping that them going from that area is going to result in a good position, a decent amount of eliminations. I'm a little bit unconfident of it, but I hope that is the result that we see.
But on the other hand, at least R8 aren't here. So it's actually a good read in the sense that Group A aren't playing Imperium. So they actually have the entirety of Georgia pool to themselves. RTG have gone very much more towards the Stalber side this time, instead of taking kind of that more South Hospital end that they used to go to before. So actually, it's very open. It's a very clean rotation that they're able to make. I just want to see them utilize that now that we've got the space to make that. Because oftentimes we see teams, and we saw it in NIGMA in that third match as well, where they have a great position, they can move and adapt from there, but then they have other teams that leapfrog them, and suddenly it's not so great a position where they actually have to be the teams rotating through others, even though they were there first.
Yeah, definitely. POWR Esports once again in this GEEKAY split. They have plenty of area to work around in this phase 1. OOREDOO Thunder, they normally drop in military base, by the way, so a little bit less viable because of that little bit more northerly plane path. So they dropped around that quarry area / west of Ferry Pier, and interestingly enough, they're going through CONQUEROR and into Military Island. That is...
It's pretty woke.
It's quite intriguing. On one hand, I get it because it's their normal job spot. But on the other hand, if they were going to do that, I presume they didn't do this, they would have gotten vehicles and instantly rotated into the island. Like, we're 5.5 minutes in, and
they've not
looted, they're only rotating into the island now. Surely they did loot a bit. As far as I know, they did. Again, it makes sense. All they're doing is giving free information over to CONQUEROR, and they're giving a free bridge camp over to CONQUEROR.
Is whether CONQUEROR decides to take that bridge camp. Now, teams in the past have done that. CONQUEROR as one of those squads to do this exact strategy. I think that, though, the way OOREDOO play is that they're going to play it quite slow now, because they should. If they play it fast and quickly rotate, now this could be based off of maybe a northern phase shift on number 2. That could prompt them to do such a thing. They're going to have to hope that it's the opposite, or that it doesn't go high north, because catching out an early rotation, as you say, will unfortunately mean OOREDOO maybe instead have to go now elsewhere towards potentially that eastern bridge, which is still in zone, but it could make a more nasty rotation for them later on.
No, I think they if it was me, I'd actually want a very northern shift on phase 2. Because it will naturally take CONQUEROR away from that western bridge. Now, do I expect CONQUEROR to hold on to bridge camp? No, I don't. I really don't. It wouldn't make sense. They would be probably cutting off their nose to spite their tail. However, it does, once again, it gives them free information, and it'll hopefully allow them to avoid getting stabbed in the back by R2 Thunders. We'll have to wait and see as Twisted Minds move in from the farm area. Triple Esports a bit to the north of them. So far, they've avoided each other.
And the other teams as well on this map also rotating down. VISTA actually have taken control of that Everest point, so they've got the information they wanted. Now they're beginning to move further in onto the zone even more so. 90th minute, I assume, are going to make more of that coastal line rotation, start to spread out in the way that 90th minute do tend to do, and try to create as much land for themselves as possible on this south side. The only other team, of course, still to get onto this zone, RTG, who probably going to come in through that Roshok bridge, who tend to do so on a later rotation compared to some of these other teams.
Rad in their own right as well, coming in through POWR. I'm okay if they wait for phase 2 to shift, because they're in that direct eastern side. They have a lot more rotational ability depending on the phase 2 shift. If it does go massively over to the west, that's probably not going to be the most ideal, but anywhere in towards the north and southerly direction would be quite positive for them. Falcon holding on top of Potato Hill. You have 4K joining them, albeit quite late, and I don't know how set up 4K, sorry, T-Falcons are for engagement. It doesn't look like they're massively prepared because they have a 2-2 split. Golden does get caught off guard though.
Yeah, it's about all of these teams again, kind of being baited into coming towards the center of the zone. Now, 4K rotating slightly later here are going to be punished for it. There's a lot of teams around this Pachinki side, and it's very much about where this zone is going to go on this phase 3. Now, it comes back towards more of that eastern front. A little bit tricky, actually, of a rotation. Not going to affect these teams for now, Imperium, but if it continues to shift on that easterly part, a lot of these teams are going to have to begin to rotate through those high hills of Pachinki and also Potato Hill itself, or else risk the actually side of Headshot Hills and more about Watertown, which is also in its own way risky, and create a lot of danger, I think, on some of these teams' rotations. And on the other hand of that, I think OOREDOO, we talked about that easterly bridge rotation. I wouldn't be opposed to it now, considering phase 3 has gone that direction.
This was a perfect circle shift for Rad. I don't like how they seem to have the road position. It's quite risky, especially this early in the game to lock down. I don't know if they're going to continue to go in that direction or if they're going to stay a little bit further away. Falcons also kind of sticking to split in around the outskirts of Potato Hill. And RTG in their own right benefited from that phase 2 shift. YALLA playing from the north side of the river. They've an okay spot. I don't really like that they still have the Edge of Runes in play. They've already lost a player, so they're down one. So it's crucial that they don't unnecessarily have players in a bad position.
A lot of these teams, though, and I think detriment to, again, the regional playstyle, already pretty much locked in Imperium on their positions in this phase 3. They can't really navigate around these different locations. 4K doing so last. I mean, you can see the result of trying to rotate. Triple just catching them out so quickly. And you see by trying to navigate now, teams can catch out so much easier because you just actually are stuck in a net almost in between these players.
It's not even just that. It's not even just that. There was 0 sense for that rotation from that 4K player. Like, I mean 0, right? They already lost 1 player to Falcons. They were able to at least get up to Potato Hill as a 3-person squad. That in itself is risky enough. The phase 2 shifts up the northeast, therefore more likely there's going to be a cluster of teams heading towards the southwest, and you send 1 player down the southwest of Potato Hill. Where is the logic of that? Like, where is the fundamental logic of that? There's no logic there, and now they're left as a 2-person team on top of Potato Hill. This is going to be a miracle for 4K to pull out a decent result in this final game of the day.
And keep in mind, they're still stuck, as we said, in that net of other players, so they don't even have the ability to run back to the edge of the zone and avoid all of the fighting and hope that they can get a better position later on. They're still going to have to navigate at least through more teams if they want to do that strategy, and therefore are likely naturally to fall down early in this game because of those mistakes. Now, there are a few more teams to rotate in. The only team really that's coming in out of the zone, as we see, is OOREDOO. They've gone for more of that more western bridge. I would argue it's a bit late considering, because they've not got the information. They're going very deep into the zone. You can see those grey markers now to the pink of power. And actually, that zone, it has gone to the east. So that idea, not only, of course, of avoiding teams by going on the eastern bridge before, would have also now been even better because the zone has gone that way naturally too.
Such a weird rotation from OOREDOO in terms of the amount of players they sent towards that South Pachinki Hill and the fact that they even went there. I would argue off the back of that circle shift and how late they were coming in and across the bridge on phase 2. If anything, they could have stayed there and maybe diverted their attention towards the eastern bridge rotation.
Exactly.
Possibly could have made sense. I was having a bit of a chuckle, by the way, at the massive split 90th minute had. They had like a 1-1-1-1 split on that kind of western southwestern side of the map, and I definitely give them credit for the cojones as individual players, and now they're gonna be entangled with OOREDOO Thunders.
Well, they do it every game as well, Imperium. That's the most impressive part about it, is they spread out like that every single Erangel game that I watched them do it. I mean, bar, I think, zones that have gone right onto them, they've completely tried to take as much advantage of space. And are one of those teams, I think, that early on are one of the few squads that kind of naturally use that early game that they have to take advantage of space.
OOREDOO Thunders get away with that rotation because CONQUEROR are playing their own game and moved over to the east, more towards the south edge of the circle. POWR Esports try and go through Pachinki Fields, and that's already a risk as it is, considering the circles that we've seen so far in the first couple of phases. And it seems like they're going to go into the loving arms of the only one who are down by the warehouses across from Pachinki.
The only one, though, caught potentially with Luffy and their pants down, is POWR will punish that mistake, and they will lose, I believe, that one player. The rest of them still going to be stuck, though, in that kind of Pachinki, Potato Hill angle coming across. They could make a more wider rotation behind those buildings, but then on the opposite hand, you've got actually POWR making those big moves and trying to go for those wider flanks. At least they've spotted Kante away, but it's very concerning that the only one are getting themselves caught into a hole.
On the northern side of the circle, by the way, teams did try and go for a little bit of a variable rotation. GEEKAY, VISTA, Gaming, RTG taking advantage of the circle shifts across the first 3 circles. And NASR actually went... Sorry, not NASR, it was YALLA that went right into apartments, which is a bit of a risk in its own right.
Still, they make it work for now. I mean, they've got a lot to do when it comes to making their way out of those. Still is 90th minute. Gonna make that big, bold rotation. They're full sending it past, actually, El Hahi here of POWR, who, again, have been very split squad, and El Hahi punished for that split now, finally. 90th gonna find that elimination for themselves, and can they make it work, though, as here comes the extra of Cavalry, but one shot down, but Gunner, the driver of Aziz, now driving even further in onto the zone, will keep themselves alive, but POWR, they've lost a lot here, but 90th, all that time behind, now is drawing the attention of OOREDOO.
Great play by 90th minute. I really like how they've turned those splits earlier on into a cohesive team rotation and team movement. POWR making a rare mistake, to be fair. I didn't like how they played through Pachinki Fields. They got caught up with the only one. They tried to disengage. That's when they domino affected and countered 90th minute off the back of wasting time and position moving in through Pachinki Field. And VISTA Gaming, although they got a return elimination onto GEEKAY, GEEKAY are making them pay.
I mean, it's just not what you want to see from VISTA, quite frankly, Imperium. It's been a poor day for them. Again, it looks like it's just their number has been added up by GEEKAY. As Satan is trying to lie down and wait. We'll just find one coming over the hill. It just felt way too easy. And it felt like actually GEEKAY just completely understood the way that VISTA wanted to play before VISTA knew how they wanted to play.
Yeah, like GEEKAY already had a little bit of more control around this Volcano Hill area as it was. So if I was VISTA Gaming off the back of getting a counter elimination, I probably just would have dipped. I don't know how many vehicles they had just to kind of make light of that, so maybe they couldn't, but either way, they're out of here as 90th minute. Do suffer 2 knocks, hands are the only one.
The only one still here as well. Finding themselves potentially here 3 of the 90th minute players. Tam and Mad rolling down onto Choto. Now, Choto's done big things in the past, is laying down the smoke road, but the players here at 90th being hammered down. The only one won't be able to find them all just yet. They should find one revive through, as a hillside does create enough terrain, but the only one, they need to send Luffy, they need to send a loose feather in, and because they've not been as aggressive maybe as they could have been, actually, 90th, they get away with it.
A little bit surprised that Triple Esports aren't trying to take a bit of an advantage over this. They're down on the lower part in the southwestern edge of the circle, and with the shots being heard, I think they have a bit of a cleaner opportunity to get involved as a third party. Maybe it's because of the fact that NIGMA are slowing them down and getting a knock onto one of the players so far, so this is still an isolated fight.
And big knock go through from Tam. Problems finding that rogue player through the smoke line. Choto is still there. Ahmad is still there, though, still. And it's the only one. They've found all those 4 players that we wanted to Imperium. They've now collapsed, and those smokes, they're going to begin to dissipate, but we don't even need them. Ahmad balled down by the grenade. And now it's only Choto inside the smokes left. Problems going very aggressive, though, but it doesn't matter. On the sliver of HP, we'll find him in 90th minute put.
The only one, when they do show up in a good way, they really do show up in a good way. We just aren't seeing a consistent enough pattern of, and I do hope that changes coming into Super Weekend number 2. The circle shifts up north right into the arms of Falcon. They've had a couple of solid splits. Now they got to decide how cohesive they want to play. 3-1 right now, honestly, isn't a bad thing. Isn't a bad thing, but is it the most effective play?
They've still got to continue through this zone. As we're going to check out the replay here, that was a beautiful nade through from Triple as well. That thankfully Rio's catch through. Smoker as well being knocked down. And is Hamco going to be the next? Yes, they are. And clever. That was a triple off camera. The Triple Esports are going to get, but going to maybe get the Quadra elimination for now. Is Lord looking like the next target already?
Yeah, as I said, NIGMA were kind of possibly slowing Triple from getting involved in the third party earlier on. The sweet revenge has come through. NIGMA Galaxy now down to just a solo, and this will become a fight between Triple Esports and Twisted Minds. A lovely pre-nade being cooked up.
Oh, gets pushed through. Wizard Zoe back on the behind side. Finds Addison return. Pidan being kicked through the smoke. Still has 1 HP left. And they will be able to use it to find down the extra triple. But it is another knocked away. Dami needs to come in for support. Yawaz also needs to enter through. Clever is there for now. And will look to find a revive. But Dami already pinned down by Yawaz, and it's beautiful stuff by the triple member to catch out the extra cavalry from moving in.
It's always so difficult engaging on this roadside. It's feast or famine at times, and this is outside the circle, so both of these teams are running out of time, especially Triple Esports. Pick up the eliminations, confirm them, and get out of dodge, make your way into the southern edge of the circle. On the west, you have the only one fighting up against NASR, Falcon, and Yalla for a little bit of control inside the edge of the circle.
Army gets themselves inside the zone. Of course, Falcons still in control. RTG still have a lot of control when it comes to this zone overall. Rado, on the edge of the zone, will try to full send it. They didn't have many options left, but GEEKAY still will shut them down either way. But Gaiv, caught behind a tree, barely keeping themselves alive behind the body of Rex. That vehicle may blow up in their face. Desha's trying to find the extra angle. Blue Zone comes in and Guy, he's only got 1 smoke. He has to try and make the return, but he can't do it. Rad shut him down.
And it probably should be the end of Rad by CONQUEROR. No, they don't spot him in the end, as Falcon did commit the full squad to the compound up on the hillside of Potato Hill, and it's going to reward them with a decent bit of control as the Blue Zone is about to pop up and show up our next phase. Where is it going to go, brother? Is it going to run wild all over towards Falcons? Kind of is the case.
It's a zone where really no team's got the control right now, but Falcons, they've got the zone out of every other squad. It's their game to lose here for the final one, Imperium in RTG. They are outside the zone, but at least they're the only other team here with 4 players, so they still have the options available to them here based on the numbers.
Shots in the direction of Falcon is quite positive. Yalla coming in on the other side. So this is quite tricky for Falcons. They need to try and navigate the traffic as Human comes in. The solo player, NASR Esports, catches YALLA off guard, but the clutch comes in.
And YALLA, 3 eliminations, only playing, by the way, is a triple. Didn't even notice it, Imperium,
wow.
but they're making it work for themselves. Inside at least the top 7 now with their 3.
Oh, no.
Oh, besides, gets caught out. Boomper thankfully doesn't get caught as well, so they're still playing, though.
This is good by Falcons, by the way. They heard it, they reacted to it, and that was a lovely molly towards the side of YALLA.
Triple. Push now coming in with his own push further towards Falcons. Gets inside the zone. Yeah, indeed. But they get the rocks of themselves. They've got some form of a blockade. Conqueror's trying to catch him out, but Wizard spots Calico as well. And now Calico is the one who will fall inside the zone. An excellent bait to punish. Groza now needs to come in further. They won't find maybe Dasher. The blue zone will take them, so no elimination point earned there. But Falcons, keep in mind, as much as all of the fighting is on the outside, they still have complete control of this zone for the most part.
The push by push of Triple Esports was indeed quite risky, but doing it as a 1-1 split was the best value around. If they had it sent as a duo, you're putting all your eggs in one basket, whereas those 2 angles of pressure made it work out so well in the favor of Triple Esports. Again, they're not out of the woods just yet because Falcon are overbearing them on the top of the hill and Wizard goes down.
But Falcons, they're occupied here by the side of RTG. Finds down Volt by Yusuf. At least one as they try to also pincer away Conqueror, RTG. So it's that triangle of all of these teams trying to take the one out below them.
The triangle of death, you could say, and the 3-way dance. Sometimes the first to heavily engage is the first one to go down. Falcon are still up as a full squad, more importantly.
RTG still in between them all. They have somehow snaked their way on inside of the zone, Imperium, and they've still got all 4 players up. Conqueror haven't been able to slow them down, neither have Falcons, but now comes the tricky part. Right now comes in the range where Falcons can see you, where you don't have that elevation advantage, and that's a beautiful nade by Conqueror. Just saw it through the lens of Never Alone, and that's 3 pickings for Never to find at least Narbo. Conqueror may have just saved themselves a 2nd position, but here push finds Damar. That's gonna hurt for Falcons.
So good for push, and now Rio tries to strike, and down goes RTG. No more road to glory, as he still has 3 teams strong.
3 uses a utility. Push has nowhere to go. Still somehow alive. Finally, Never Alone puts the stinging nail to bed for themselves. It's CONQUEROR won't be able to deliver more wounds so to the bodies of Falcons. I think Falcons realistically here should have this control. They have the zone, phase 7. Conqueror, yes, they aren't falling for now, but as soon as the zone comes in, forces them away from their hiding. Falcons, this should be up to them.
I think both teams are in a chance to win because they're split. They have many angles of pressure. Whoever gets the first knock will be in control, and it's Falcons.
That's what you're looking for, Imperium. Rio gets put away. Rosa now trying to return, but that's an excellent secondary through from Yusuf. Falcons, they've got everything in this game. It's only 1 more to go. It don't look great for them. Caliga's been spotted. They're hunting them down. And Falcons, they find their prey, and they take the chicken dinner in our final match.
Man, so good to see this team somewhat on top of their game, at least so far in this PMPL. They found their confidence, they found their feet, they found their calling, and the way they positioned it early on in the game, what I absolutely loved is so many teams make this mistake. They feel like they have to react to the circle shift, that they have to reposition. Falcons knew they didn't. They had a great 3-1 split early on. They pushed back 4K early on as well. And again, as the circle shifted, they didn't panic. They kept their composure. When they had to move back up as a full squad, they took that decision and they took control of it. Just really cleanly executed. It was just that one player that caught out by Push, the final member of Triple Esports, which is okay. That happens. Other than that, it was a near perfect game.
Lucas, check out those final match rankings of the day. Imperium, of course, Falcons going to be on top with their wings spread wide. Triple Esports in that second position. No, good game from them, because keep in mind, Triple starting this match were in that relegation zone. So getting those 19 points, very, very important for them. And it all came back, off you said, of that brilliant 1-1 split.
Yeah, really, really good by Triple Esports. They built the foundations off the amount of eliminations they had gotten early on in the game, so they kind of had nothing to lose playing that 1-1 split right. And it turned into even more points for them, at least from a placement standpoint. At least CONQUEROR had a much better game. I still question how comfortable they are in themselves, and there's a little bit more inconsistency compared to PMPL Springsplit.
Exactly.
Is that because of the standard of the lobby going up? Is it because they've yet to really reach their final form per se? We'll find it out throughout the tournament, but at least it was nice to see them get a pretty solid result in that game. And that nade onto Road to Glory, that's one to remember.
And I think for CONQUEROR, they're doing actually all right, considering that Miramar is their best map, and Miramar isn't in the league stage. So certainly an uphill battle for them. As we check out that next page as well of the standings on that final match, is OOREDOO Thunder's VISTA still struggling to find those points. POWR, as we said, a bit of a weird play, considering that they had such good results, but really not an issue, considering they've already probably guaranteed themselves in that Super Weekend already.
Twisted Minds, they're the one to really look at, right? Only 3 points in this final game. They were coming into this final game already in the bottom four with only, as I look to my notes, 8 points in 3 games. So you make that 11-4. A massive downhill for them. I'm still okay with them coming into tomorrow and kind of stepping up in that regard. We've already talked about the potential consequences of not getting into the second Super Weekend. Let's see what they can do tomorrow.
Look, it's a long road for tomorrow, and I think it only gets even harder because of those 3 Sanhoks as we check out, though, today's overall standings and where the leaderboard really is looking right now after, of course, our first 5 games. POWR, as we said, very much have secured themselves a position. And you could argue the same all the way realistically down to, I would say, GEEKAY. I mean, GEEKAY Major Pride still maybe have a couple points to go, but it's not an issue considering.
To me, the top 8 are secure. Unless you absolutely fundamentally choke. If you're CONQUEROR and 4K, I suppose. But to me, the top 8 are all good with 4 more games for each of them tomorrow. Falcons, 2 chicken dinners in 1 day. It's a massive turnaround. And I do wonder where this Falcons team were the first week. It doesn't matter because that's the past. The present and the future is that Team Falcons look a lot more confident. They're playing a lot more comfortably, and it's resulted in this kind of level of performance. Only 27 eliminations. I know it's still the second highest. No, it's not even only. To be fair, it's actually very balanced. 32-27. You can't argue. It just looks so much worse compared to
POWR, right? Like POWR had a phenomenal day, though. Like POWR had an unearthly day, quite frankly, when it came to their first game particularly. I mean, that by far is one of the biggest games I've seen in not just PMPL Arabia this season, but for a very long time. I mean, the last time I saw that was, I think, R8 getting about 35 points or so on a Miramar match.
Let's move on to the second page to see who's looking a little bit worse for wear in terms of points gathered. Better for Triple Esports again because of that strong finish on a total of 29. YALLA okay on 28. NIGMA on 26. I'd kind of say within the bottom, within kind of 9th to 12th are okay. It depends on where you want to draw the line, but because R8 are closer to NASR than they are to the only one, that's where that kind of cutoff point lies for me. So 13th to 16th, and obviously lower, not looking in the best form.
Yeah, I mean, 9th to 12th, as long as they get some points tomorrow, they will be fine. And I doubt that they should struggle not to say that it hasn't happened before. Teams have had a good first day and then flopped, but I very much doubt it as long as we get one lucky game. And I think it's more concern overall for R8 for NASR, who are two of these kind of...
Whoa!
Well,
sorry to cut you off, Highland Wolf. Sorry, apologies, because that was, of course, quite rude. But look at Ardu Thunders. Unless that's a mistake, that's 0 eliminations across 4 games.
Gosh,
I don't think I've ever seen that.
I didn't even notice that. I will be happily quite cut off, to be honest, to see what a shocking result, I think, from OOREDOO. At least they got a 16 placement points. They need to step up because they haven't found a single person all today. And as we check out that relegation zone, of course, of 17th to 20th Imperium, it's 90th. Unfortunately, in that zone, alongside SKYROCKET, Twisted Minds, VISTA. Now, we've already kind of talked a bit about Twisted Minds and VISTA. 90th on one page, I feel like could also get out of there. I think we've seen 90th have good games before. My real concern, alongside, you could argue, VISTA, is also SKYROCKET Esports, who facing tomorrow, and we repeat again, only have the first 4 games to make a difference. They even sit out on that last game, so they have to decide their fate much earlier than the likes of VISTA even.
Definitely. It's a very much squeaky bum time for both SKYROCKET Esports and VISTA Gaming. 90th minute in their own right, are coming into this league week with a total of 100 points in the first Super Weekend under their belts. That's not the most secure, right?
Yes.
That will put them under a lot of pressure coming into Super Weekend 3 if they don't make it into this next Super Weekend. So I'd say they're still, they still need to pick up the pace in that regard.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's interesting coming into tomorrow. A few teams surprisingly so low down, a couple of teams unsurprisingly so low down, and surprisingly in a good way, a couple of teams that didn't make it into the first Super Weekend look so much stronger today.
Look, I'll tell you what they need in that 17th to 20th position Imperium is the Monster Energy with our official energy drinks partner of the tournament. They need to pick up that pace. They need to get energized to be able to get those points on board for tomorrow, because it's going to be same time, same place. Not on the broadcast, but it's going to be yourself, Imperium, alongside Monica on that broadcast tomorrow. We'll see you there for the 3 Sanhoks over then.
Only aim for perfection.